Greetings, loyalists and heretics. Welcome to Iron and Ceramite, where we once again enter the warp without an astropath.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Iron and Ceramite podcast. I'm John, and as always, I'm joined by these fine gentlemen: Dave.
Hi, guys.
Tom.
Hello.
Shane.
Hello.
And Glenn.
Hi.
How's everyone doing? Everyone good?
Fantastic. Thank you.
Yep, all good.
Cool.
Yourself?
Right. I'm very good, thank you. All the better for seeing you. Right, so let's get straight into it then. We'll go through our hobby roundup of what everyone's been up to. Shane, what have you been doing since we last spoke?
Yeah, not a great deal, if I'm honest. I got the Necrons finished, which was good. Like, so I've got my 1,000 points done with the Necrons, so that was nice to get that finally tied up. And then I went on to the Wolfguard. And as far as I got with that before I actually, didn't find any time to get any further, was just their legs. So I've got 5 pairs of Wolfguard legs and bases and nothing else. That's it. I'll take a photo and put it on Instagram. But yeah, I've tried to find the time to get back to them, but I haven't been able to. So maybe I'll get some time tomorrow. But at the moment, I've just got 5 pairs of wolf grey legs for Wolfguard. I don't think they'll count as points yet, but it's a step closer to getting my 1,000 points for the Space Wolves as well.
Saying that, John used a bloody cork for his Lord of Contagion in our first game, so at least you got part of it built.
This is true. But that's about the extent for my my hobby. Obviously, I'm maybe we'll come on to it in a bit, but I'm one of the lucky few that's still got a bit of grey sear undercoat. So I've been able to continue painting, which is nice.
You're gonna have Dave at your door soon, then.
I know. I was going to say
we've been going through today.
Nearly new aerosol of grey sear. I'm open to offers.
One thing I was going to ask you, Shane, actually, regarding how I think it's your Necrons. You base them all the same, and they've got that cracked sort of mud effect. Is that?
Yeah.
How do you do that? Is that? I mean, do you actually have to have a technique to do that, or?
No, there's a specific technical paint in the Citadel paint range.
Which one is that?
I think it's a Grelin. I think it's called a Grelin Earth.
Oh, right.
But you have to paint it on really thick, and then it dries. And as it dries, it contracts, and that's what forms the cracks. And then what I do over that is just put Agrax Earthshade to fill in the little gaps in between, so it gives it like that broken mud type effect. It works really well. So I think it's a Grelin Earth or a Grelin Waste. I think that's what it's called.
Oh, cool. I'll have to look that up, man, because they look really uniform. The way they've come out, they look perfect.
No,
I think there's a Martian one as well, like a red one as well.
Yeah.
For that as well.
That would make sense for me then.
Sakari stuff. It looks really good. Plus, it's quite easy to work with, and the faster you dry it, I can't remember if it's the faster you dry it, the slower you dry it, it affects the cracks. So if you like run it under a hairdryer to like really speed up the cracking process, so we used to do it under the hand dryer at GW, and that really made it sped it up, because like Shane said, you put a decent amount on, so it just does take a little while to dry, not compared to the texture paints for the bases, but it does take a while.
Cool.
Yeah, I found that overdoing it across the course of all of the Necron, as I said, slap it on thick, and then Earthshade is what I use, any kind of ink afterwards to fill the recesses, because otherwise you see through to the undercoat in the cracks. But it depends what effect you want to go for. But it's really easy to use. So as Glenn said, it's dead easy to work with. It's it just gives a really nice effect afterwards.
I have to say, though, with all of you, really, especially you, Shane, though, when I was looking at the pictures John put up on Insta the other day, for obviously our Iron and Ceramite group on there, and all of yours look so uniform compared to mine. Like, some of my figures look okay, they look well painted or whatever. They've all got different bases. One's on grass, one's on sand, one's on stones, one's on slate. And it just looks so random. I really wish that I followed what you lot were doing, but I suppose I can rebase them at some point.
I don't know, I think it's one of those, it's probably more luck than judgment, because I suppose you're doing it the other way around. It's like I look at it, and sometimes I wish that I'd just gone, you know what, I'm going to paint this model and just do the model. Whereas I got in, I'm into the batch side of it right now, and it's like, no, I can't go on to the individual models until I've done the batches. What I actually really enjoyed doing was when I did all the characters for the Space Wolves, because I could just spend time on one at a time.
Yeah.
And that's what I like doing. But the batch ones, I kind of need to get them out of the way so that I don't need to worry about it. But
You've done the right thing though. When we come to playing a game, they'll look awesome. So it's all good.
What you need to do, Bob, on that gaming table you make, just make like little patches of grass, little patches of sand.
Make it really random. Yeah.
It'll be fine.
Tom, so what have you been doing? And we know you've been doing a lot.
Yeah, for once I had a good day today. I think I was a little bit excited about the podcast tonight, so I was thinking, oh, why not make a day of it? So I've gone through doing my first of all, I was making a chapter master for my Sanguine Reapers Blood Angel successor chapter, but I'm also planning on still playing as Blood Angels at some, just so I can use the special characters and stuff like that. So I've redone Commander Dante because I don't like the model, to be honest. It looks cool, but it's very small, and when you've got all the Primaris around him and he's supposed to be the chapter master, he looks pathetic, really, to be honest. The size of him, so I've done one that's sort of flying. I know you can't probably see it on here, but he's coming out quite well. I've tried to raise him up on the base. It was horrendous to do. I nearly smashed it through the wall at one point. Like literally, that wire just kept like falling out of place, and I was like, right, one more time. That's that. But yeah, but I got it done. It's up there. It looks okay. So that's him. And then I made a Primaris Lieutenant, just because I could really. I had loads of bits spare, and I thought, fuck it, I'm on a roll. After that, I'm halfway through an Apothecary as well, Primaris Apothecary, which I've gone with. I think it's a unique scheme. It looks pretty cool, but I just can't be bothered to finish it at the moment, really. And then my Chief Librarian as well for my Sanguine Reapers. So yeah, I'm just going through getting all my characters and special models in place, really, for both Blood Angels and my unique chapter, the Sanguine Reapers. Any questions?
how long did it take you to get the exhaust from the jetpack? Because I've seen other people do it, and I'm like, Jesus Christ, it seems like it takes a while. But how did it go?
I've still got some painting to do with it. As as Dave said earlier, what the fuck? Yeah. As Dave said earlier, it did look a little bit like a what was your words, Dave?
A turd.
No, go on. What was the whole sentence?
A turd on a stick.
A turd on a stick. Yes, that was it. So I don't know if you can see it, but it still looks a little bit like a turd on a stick, just slightly painted.
A lot like a turd.
So I've still got to go through with the. I was using my hobby knife just to sort of flick at the cotton wool to try and make it more, I don't know, smoky looking, I suppose. But it's not really working now. It's painted, so that's going to take a lot of work. But yeah, it's just they sell these things that you use at the dentist that you put underneath your gums. These like cotton wool bud things. I don't know if you've ever had them. They put under your gums so you don't it soaks up all whatever's in your mouth, I suppose. Yeah. Knowing you, Dave, quite a lot, I'd imagine. but yeah, so I just use one of them.
Is that why you called me Dad?
It's all going wrong.
Why I called you Dad. Oh. Yeah, so yeah, that's so that. Well, on to someone else, I guess. So yeah, that went well.
Dad, what have you been doing?
I've been doing a fair bit of reading. I finished Angel of Fire, and I also finished I can't remember the fucking name of it. The Fist of Demetrius, which are the first two of the Macarius Crusade books. So I really enjoyed them. Obviously, from reading 15 hours, that's sort of what pushed me towards getting those, and then Tom recommended them. I actually really enjoyed that, and I'm looking forward to reading the third, especially with the sort of Dark Elder Drakari, whatever they're called now, input in the second book. I enjoyed that, and I think that it's swaying me towards that would be my Xenos army eventually, when I'm finished with the Namakash Crusade. Been doing a bit of painting, not as much as I like. Obviously, I'm doing batch painting, so it is tediously slow up until the end when you think, oh fuck, I've got 40 finished models. So I currently got about 30 models being batch painted, all at various stages. I'm hoping to finish my Hellblasters in the next couple of days because they're getting to the end of them, but it's slow going. I think that's just the thing with batch painting. It feels really, really slow until the end, and then all of a sudden you've got an army, almost an army ready. So, and I obviously from doing research for this episode, I indulged myself in getting a Grimaldus figure as well. So I've now got a Grimaldus and a Helbrecht, High Marshal Helbrecht to paint and do as well. So I think they're possibly going to be my next ones as a reward for finishing my Hellblasters, but we'll see. Just to try and have a firstborn army with the main characters complete, because obviously I've got my Emperor's Champion already. So that's the plan.
What was it about going to the books you mentioned first? What was it about the Drakari that sort of drew you in? Apart from Slanesh, obviously we know that. But I want to hear it from you though. You filthy pervert.
I think this one's really well written. I think it's William. Is it William King?
Yeah,
same as the Space Wolf omnibus. And it is really well written, and it sort of flicks between the thoughts of the Drakari leader and Sergeant Lemuel, who's obviously the main protagonist in the Imperial Guard. I think it's really well written, and it was just engaging and interesting to see it from a Xenos point of view, so to speak. So I think that's what I enjoyed the most of it, and they're just pretty cool. They just go around and they just go around slaying with ease, so to speak, and enjoying it. And I think that is the polar opposite. That is everything that the Black Templars hate. I like going one extreme to the other, I guess.
Yeah. I think without mentioning too much, obviously you just read the book, but the best part in it for me was when he was hunting them, wasn't he? As you say, the leader of the Drakari. I can't remember his name. Do you remember his name?
I don't think he even says his name in it. No. It may do.
But he's hunting the guard, and he's taking them out, like you say, with ease, literally 4 or 5 of them at a time. And then he catches the scent of the space balls, and it's pretty cool. You're like, sort of, oh, right, it's going to kick off now. And it obviously does. It's a completely different ball game when they get involved with it. But it's pretty cool because there's a lot of different factions in that one book, isn't there, as well?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, you've got the Space Wolves, you've got the Drakari, you've got Imperial Guard, different aspects of the Imperial Guard. And they land, obviously, on, without going into too much information, but a world that's not actually been brought back into the Imperial light. So you've got so many sort of different aspects to it that makes it really interesting. So I think it's just a really well written book, and this series so far is one of my favourites, I think. So.
Oh, awesome.
And there's a lot of bolter porn in it as well. Lasgun porn, I guess, rather than bolter porn. But
I was going to say Lasgun's not quite as hard as bolter porn, right?
It's not, no.
Oh, cool. Anything else, Dave? Or are you done?
I think that's it. I'm done. I'm spent.
Well, we know Glenn's been busy. He's dug out his inventory, and he's posted his second Instagram post ever.
Yeah, so I done a little bit of digging in the roof space, mostly because I've been speaking to previous manager, because I was struggling with I got bogged down doing a bit of batch painting, and I just sort of lost the enthusiasm for carrying on for the time. So his advice was to, get a few minor little projects that are completely unrelated. So I basically went up into my boxes to get a few Space Wolves, some Orcs, and then came across the model on Insta. And I was like, yep, got to put that up, because that is the fabled award-winning model.
Oh,
so that's what made you Blue Water Painting Champion. That's
yes, it is.
One.
It's looking a bit sad now. Yeah, it is looking a bit sad because the head came off. I was trying to put that back together, and then the whole thing came off the damn base. So the wife had a good old laugh at me, and then my heart broke a little bit because it was just, oh shit. So yeah, that was good. done a little bit of planning as well with various lists, just to sort of give me a reason behind the painting of the stuff. So I also came across some Grey Knights up in the attic as well. So I thought, yeah, I'll do a little 1,000-point list for them, a little 1,000-point list for that, just so I've anything that I do manage to get painted over the next few weeks, there's a purpose to it rather than just, yeah, I'm going to paint some models, because painting's not my thing, so that's never going to happen for me. And I've even managed to read some books. Well, a short story in a Horus Heresy anthology. So, you know.
Which one did you go for, man?
It's the anthology's quite far in. It's just after Damnation of Pythos. I can't remember the name of the anthology, but it was the Brotherhood of the Storm was the first book in it. It's
That's a really good one.
Story
Against the Orcs, isn't it?
Yeah. To be honest, I think I read it before, because it was its own short story released in one of the little novellas, and then they snapped it into that, because I was getting sort of a little bit into it and was like, this seems awfully familiar. But I stuck with it just to get back into the habit of actually reading something as well. So I've got that book to finish, and then the next two Heresy books that are sitting waiting since Christmas, looking at me going, come on, fucking read me. But yeah, so hobby is actually back in progress with me again. Yes, thank you.
What was the, just out of curiosity, what was the award-winning miniature?
That is a Skaven Vermin Lord. I think it's the Corruptor, I want to say.
Is that Age of Sigmar or Fantasy Battles?
It was fantasy. It's in the Age of Sigmar now as well, but it was fantasy. It's one of the few models I've ever seen Games Workshop produce that it made me go, yeah, I want to paint that, because I don't feel that way. I think there's been maybe a handful of models or units that have come out that I've gone, I want to get that just to paint that, because I barely played fantasy. I didn't have a Skaven army. I just looked at that and went, that is a freaking awesome model. I'm going to paint that.
It is. I've just looked at it. I hadn't actually seen it in a while. Well, since you.
Yeah, thanks for the like. Yeah, seen that.
Just giving you one. So, yeah, that is awesome.
Yeah, I did notice on the base, because it was supposed to be like a swampy base, and it was sort of Nurgle's rot and stuff like that in there. 5 years after painting it, or maybe 6 years now, the sheen has gone off the Nurgle's rot, so it's a bit bland looking. So, tip for John, any of the random gooiness you're putting on Nurgle's rot, it will fade.
Well, hopefully we're still playing him 5 years from now, and I'll top it up as we go.
Yeah.
Will it fade even with varnishing, or does that?
That I don't know. It might do, it might not. I'm not 100% sure. And have you tried my oil tip yet, Tom?
Actually, no, because last time we spoke, I was saying I've got olive oil, I'll do it. Turns out it wasn't olive oil; it was, I don't know, hemp oil or something. Yeah. So I think it was John or Dave was saying just chuck some on, see what happens. But I was like, well, he's my Terminator Sergeant. Don't really want to mess him up. So, but I'm still going to try it, mate. Definitely.
Yeah, because that was another reason why I pinged a message over to my old boss, because I thought it was him that gave me that tip, and he was like, yeah, there's that, or you can put a little bit of, I think he said Lamy medium over it. No, a little bit of Lamy medium over it, and then a little bit of gloss varnish, or the other way around. I can't remember. It's in my messages.
Gloss varnish was one of the ones that I was told when I put it online to everyone.
Yeah,
and I did try that, but it wasn't. It brought it back about 20% maybe, but no more.
I think it was a little bit of gloss, but then there was something to do with Lamy medium as well, just to what was it? Yeah, gloss varnish, then Lamy medium over the top of that.
I'll have to try that then.
But if you've got Lamy medium kicking around handy, not, it's probably easier to get a bit of olive oil than it is to get Lamy medium at the minute.
Yeah, definitely. No, I'll try that.
But a little bit. You don't want the big greasy model.
So I'm not just going to sort of like, treat it like it's a Mediterranean salad in the wok.
Just dip.
Yeah. What about you, John?
So I haven't really done a lot of painting actually. I did my Tallyman just over a week ago, and I haven't actually painted anything else. It's probably since we've started, this is probably the longest gap I've had without actually painting another model. But I've done quite a bit of reading. Finished Fulgrim finally, and me and Shane have recorded 3 episodes of Omnis. I've done the first 3 parts of Fulgrim, and that's all ready to go. And I've started Descent of Angels again. About quarter of the way through that. It's okay.
It's going to be a hard read for the second time, that one, though. Like I say, I'm not with all the people that say it was the worst book ever.
Yeah.
But it's going to be hard to read that second time, I think.
I agree. I found Descent. I think Glenn, you might have said it as well on the chat.
Yeah, he did.
It's so it almost takes you out of the heresy. Like the first 5 books have built up all this momentum, and then Descent of Angels is such a tangent. I found it really tough. Yeah,
I mean, I've read the first part, and I mean, it's interesting because I know where it's going, so I know it's building up, and I know it's like you told me it's going to pay off eventually. But the first part, I mean, I don't know, is it Zahariel, the main character? I hope that he is in the heresy in a few books from now, because we've literally like following him around from a child, and 2 chapters were just him having a bloody lesson with his master, talking about why they want to be knights and stuff. And it's just like, after everything else we've just done, it's just like, not like with the other books, I planned on skim reading them because I'd already read them to get back up to speed for doing Omnis, but I didn't. I read every single page. With this one, it's just like, oh my god, flick, 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 flick. We've just got to like their first encounter with one of these beasts out in the woods, and finally it's obviously like a bit of action again now, so it's picked up again. I know it'll pick up a little bit from here, but that intro, I can see why people don't read it, because it is like you really are slamming on the brakes and starting again. But I enjoyed it the first time, and I'll enjoy it. I will enjoy it now I've got to the part where things start happening. It was just getting through that first bit, but other than that, I haven't really done anything else. Because I'm trying to read the books I've already read, so I can get on to Tales of Heresy and beyond. So yeah, I've put a bit more emphasis into that. I did actually open up all my Codex as well.
Hooray!
Hang on.
Second clap of the night.
And the core rules. So I didn't read much of it, but I did open it and look at some pictures, and I really enjoyed them. And there were words there that I know I'm going to go back and read properly one day when we play a game. But I'm counting on you guys carrying me through.
I was actually, that's a good point. Actually, I completely forgot about it. But Tommy, I was going to ask you about it. How did you find your like small squad playthrough? How did that go?
Yourself.
Playing with myself. Thanks, Glenn. It was ridiculous. It was actually quite good fun. I know it sounds pathetic, but obviously we can't go out to beat each other. So I thought, oh well, I will learn the rules like this. I put a squad of Blade Guard veterans against a squad of Death Company originally, and I was going through. I got halfway through, and then I realised I wasn't adding a couple of different bits and pieces in that I should have been for certain squads. So I just thought I'll start again, and I kept doing it. I started again about 3 or 4 times, and but it was starting to go into my head though, the way in which to play. The rotation of the rounds and the phases and all the little variables you've got to add in for each different specific unit. So it was really helping. I'll be honest, I haven't done as much as I'd like. I was going to go through it with the Terminators versus the Blade Guard veterans to see what happened, but I haven't got around to it yet. But I think that may be for tomorrow. But yeah, I found it really helpful, a really good way to just get used to the basics, really.
Who won against the Death Company and the Blade Guard?
Well, no one, to be honest, because like I say, I kept getting about quarter of the way through what you could call it a mini match, and the Knights kept starting again because I was like, I haven't added this, I haven't added that. It's not fair on the others. Like, yeah, I really got into it, but yeah, just me standing there having an argument with myself, really. But I think if I remember rightly, the furthest I got, I think the Death Company was actually beating the Blade Guard. But it was very equal points, and they both had quite a few attacks each and stuff like that. But yeah, the dice rolls, the Blade Guard were getting beaten up basically.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
I would advise for sort of your first few playthroughs, focus on the core rules mechanics rather than worrying too much about the Codex rules. So things like this unit gets this on the charge and does this and things like that. You know, if it's just weapon rules and the core mechanics of the game, because then once you get used to playing that, you can then sort of bring in the additional things. Because like I know with the Death Company and Marines in general, you know, you get your extra attack on charging and getting charged and stuff like that. So, you know, once you get the basic mechanics down, the rest will follow because that'll already be in your head. You won't have to think too much about that. And you can plan then for, oh no, there's this rule I have to put in, and there's that rule to put in as well.
Yeah. I think you're definitely right, but 100%, mate. But my thinking was just to, if I see something, then sort of read it down. Because just to try it, sort of thing. But you're right. I do need to just go through and get them basic bits first, and then add the rest in. But it just kept coming into my mind like, oh, I wonder, you know, what would have happened if I'd added these and these and these, and I just kept going back. But when we meet, I think eventually in a few months, that'd be definitely a good way to have a couple of little battles, just playing with the basics and not too much else.
Yeah. At least you'll know what the basics are. You can tell me what they are, and then I'll tell everyone that I read the core rules.
To be honest, at one point I literally felt like my brain was melting out of my ears because I was looking at all the statistics and I just couldn't focus anymore. There's I know people get used to this type of thing. I mentioned Glenn, it's like second nature to you now with certain units and stuff like that. But I was getting so fed up of just going back and back and back and going, what was his strength? Oh, how many attacks does he have? And I was just reading the same exact thing over and over again. Nothing would go into my brain. And in the end, I just found that I was sitting in the chair and looking at the table. Just like that. And I was like, yeah, no, I'll do this again tomorrow. But yeah, for the first couple of hours I was doing it, it was really fun. Yeah.
Cool. Anybody else got anything that they want to tell us about before we move on?
Do we want to talk about the great shortage of spray undercoating?
Yeah, go for it.
Is that still too sore?
Yeah, it's a bit of a raw subject, to be fair.
Dave's always sore.
Yeah, it's pissing me off. It really is. For fuck's sake, I don't understand it at all. I don't understand why you can't get fucking grey sear or chaos black.
Because we're all at home, isn't it? And there's another thing as well, obviously, what Shane mentioned with regards to, which I didn't know much about. They're changing did you say they were changing the packaging?
Yeah.
Or?
So at the end of last year, I had an order with Games Workshop, which included some grey sear spray, and they were taking ages, and I kept emailing saying, where is it? And then eventually a very helpful customer service bod just said, we don't have it available because they're changing the design, so there's none available anywhere. Like, you know, there's no new stock at the moment. It's being discontinued, and that's when I asked, is it being discontinued as in it's not going to come back, or, you know, what's happened? And that's when they said, oh no, it's not. It's discontinued in its current guise, but it's being redesigned. So that's why there isn't any. And that's when I was like, well, I'll take the order that I put in anyway, which was just some other paints, and then went online to try and order or try and find somewhere that still had stock left. But yeah, I think that's it. Until they get the new cans out, it's going to be a bit of a shortage. So,
but why? I don't know, Ben. I don't know if you can weigh in on this, like being on the other side of it, as in why that would happen. But it doesn't make any sense to me why you would just stop any availability for something that is so important to actually painting. I don't get it at all.
It happens every now and again with certain products whenever they get reboxed or rebranded. When the initial order that they've done, because paint is one of the few things that Games Workshop doesn't actually make itself. So they would have done this sort of projected order months and months ago, maybe even years ago, of needing X amount of cans of this. This will last up until then. And then they decided to redo the artwork of the cans, or they need to change some of the sort of the health and safety stuff. Maybe it's down to Brexit, with there being different restrictions about what they can and can't have in spray cans. Because, as an example, on the spray cans, if you look at the British or EU sort of restrictions on the can, it's okay to use. And you look at the American rules, and the American rules has this is a carcinogenic. So it's cancerous in America, but it's okay in the UK. So, you know, there's going to be different things that are going to be on the can. It's the same with, I think at the minute, there's some of the Blood Bowl teams especially, you cannot get them for love nor money. And they are sort of a couple of the more popular teams. It's just their predicted sort of forecast of what models they needed to produce or what pins they needed to produce, because people are at home, they've got more time to do hobby, has sort of surpassed what their stocks were. So then they're just obviously not able to just, you know, snap their fingers and magically produce thousands more cans of spray paint. So it is unfortunately just one of those things where it's going to be a patience thing, because like Shane said, it's going to be it's a rebranding. It's not they're going to discontinue, because they brought these paints out specifically for the contrast paints, and they're amazingly popular, even for just people undercoating for brush painting with normal paints. So I don't think they're going to go away anytime soon, unlike some of the other coloured sprays, because they do discontinue them after a little while. Sometimes the sales aren't good enough.
Yeah, I mean, that does make sense, especially with all COVID. The amount of people that have said, "Oh, they come back to the hobby after a big break, something to do during lockdown."
Yeah,
that makes sense, because but it's still pissing me off. Fuck everyone else.
Well, thanks for the very reasonable explanation, but fuck you.
Yeah, I was going to say, Tommy, what? Like, I know you've found other undercoats. What ones have you found?
I'm trying others. I'm just looking at recommendations I'm getting at some of the on some of the Facebook groups, and one of them was this stuff called Rust-Oleum, which I think is more well known in America. Maybe, I'm not even too sure, to be honest. But I tried the white one of that, and I don't know. It may be for specific paints it works better than others, but the ones I've tried on it, it seems like the surface stays a little bit almost waxy, and it's difficult to paint over it. It smears a lot more than the Citadel one, at least. But but then I've tried. I moved on to Army Painter Skeleton Bone, which I use today. I don't know if, again, you probably won't be able to see it, but it's actually applied really well across the figure. I haven't painted over it yet, but through using the Army Painter Silver one that I've used for so long now, that was really exceptional. Really, I've got nothing bad to say about that. The way it went onto the model, and literally any colour is painted over it perfectly fine, even though it's metallic. So I'm happy with the Army Painter one as well. But I do agree that Grey Seer, because I used a whole can of that probably in the last maybe 8 months, and that was probably the best one I've used so far by quite a long way. It's very even, very easy to paint over. Obviously, I use contrast as well, the same as you, Shane. It is perfect for that. But yeah, so I haven't really had that much luck yet, but I will let you know on the next podcast how this turns out with the skeleton bone.
I would say though, with that rust, whatever it was, going with a tester of a white spray paint is an incredibly harsh judge, because almost every company that I've dealt with, white is probably the worst spray paint they do.
Mm-hmm.
It's such a difficult one for them to get right. So, you know,
I agree with you.
Some of the other ones are okay.
Yeah, I used the Citadel one not too long ago, because I still had that, and it must have been, I'm not even going to lie, it must have been maybe 15 years, maybe 20 years old. It had all the old Citadel branding on it and stuff like that, with the red thing or whatever it was, and the big castle that it used to have for it, yellow castle or whatever it was on the front. And that white spray was powdery, like you've said before. It is quite powdery, but it was really good in comparison to this Rust-Oleum stuff. And I'm not saying Rust-Oleum's bad or anything like that. I don't know enough about it. But the Citadel one, even though it's known as being bad because it's white, was still a lot better than the Rust-Oleum one. I don't know if that changed in later years for you with Citadel. Did it get worse, the white spray, or was it pretty much always the same?
Whenever they changed from Skull White to Ceramite White, it did make it a bit better, but it's still a bit dusty.
Yeah,
you know, because occasionally I'd do like one single model, hold it by the base, and just there we go. If it's black, that fingernail staying black for a good couple of days till I like scrub the shit out of it. If it's the white spray paint, I could pretty much go and it would come off,
Yeah.
So it's white's never been a great color. That's why I just avoid it like the plague for an undercoat.
Basically,
What about you?
fucking get some grace here.
Dave, let it go. Just let it go.
I was
Breathe.
going to say, how like in need are you? Like, have you got like a load of?
I think he's
models ready to
injecting
go?
it into his fucking veins.
The thing is, I've undercoated basically all my Primaris infantry that I got. So I've got Squad of Reavers, Hellblasters, Intercessors, Infiltrators, and a few more of my other bits before that I used some of the contrast paints of the Firstborn. And then that's pretty much all of it done. And then I've got obviously my vehicle, so I want to get some Chaos Black as well. But I want Grace here for a lot of obviously my new models, my High Marshal and Grimaldus and stuff like that.
But what I mean is, have you got enough to be painting on now before you need more?
After my batch paint's done, no.
Okay.
give it
Fair enough.
a week and a half, and I reckon that I'll be sort of scuppered really. So
All I know is apparently don't go for Halfords. That's never break to the Halfords level.
I used a black from Halfords on my Space Marines. When I first got 'em.
I've seen it on YouTube. I've seen people like Midwinter Minis and stuff like that. They'll use like Halfords grey, and I'm like, I'm like, oh no, it can't, surely not. But I don't know, maybe.
How did that work for you though, John? I mean, specifically, you said you used them, and obviously we know what happened to them, poor souls anyway. But
I mean, they're just black. I mean, it went on all right, to be honest. I mean, now I wouldn't particularly.
I wouldn't put that on camera.
Well, it doesn't matter. It's already been on. It's on my Instagram how bad they are. But these are obviously the first things I did. I don't know how well they're gonna come out.
It looks perfect, mate.
See,
it's quite blurry.
See the gun and the face, they're just black. But I mean, I wouldn't recommend spraying them black unless that's what you're going for, because painting yellow on top of that wasn't the smartest choice. But it went on all right. I've still got it down here. It's fine. I've not used it since because I just undercoat everything with Wraithbone spray now.
I think that's one thing I was going to say with regards to you're looking for Chaos Black, Dave. You said, didn't you? I know that is really good Chaos Black. Like I say, I've got some left. I've got about 20% left of it. But I think with black, that goes on probably the easiest. Like John said, his Halfords one goes on fine. I think you could pretty much find almost any primer that would go on okay to paint over. I don't know if I'm wrong in that. If anyone could correct us on the comments at some point, or if you know anything, Glenn. But no, you don't, do you? You never prime anything different, don't you? Just Citadel with you, isn't it, all the time?
No, I have used which one was that? I did use the Army Painter stuff before. That is quite good as like a base. It was actually a spray base color.
Yeah.
And it was a yellow, and it was done beautifully, absolutely
really?
fantastic. Yeah. I think that's the only other one I've really used. But like Shane said about the Halfords one, just because of like the massive popularity of people saying, "Oh yeah, use that one," it can't be that bad. Like so many people use the grey primer. As long as you get the grey primer one, not the actual grey spray or the coloured spray. If you're just using the primer one, apparently it's a fantastic one just because of the size, the coverage, and the cost of it. Because like you ask online, and so many people will just jump straight away with like, "Oh, go to Halfords." Yeah. It's just so popular. It can't be that shit.
How much is it, the Halford stuff? Can anyone remember off the top of their head? Because what is Citadel spray rate? Maybe £14-15 up to 18 quid, maybe sometimes.
I think the Halfords one's about £6 for a 300ml can. Well, I could be wrong.
I can't remember. It wasn't that much.
Pretty cheap. Yeah, it's really, really cheap.
I remember buying it because it was cheap, rather than buying Games Workshop Citadel paint when I didn't know what I was doing. I still don't know what I'm doing, but now I'm just paying more for it.
That's one thing I was going to ask, actually, Glenn. I think you played the most games out of all of us by far. When you're playing a game against an opponent, is it?
Yes.
Obviously, do you both write down your army so that each other can see exactly what you're using, so that you can check it to make sure that they're telling the truth. I know most people wouldn't lie, but some people could get things wrong, I suppose, that could end up costing you the game. What happens with all that?
It's
or do you just trust them?
It's sort of personal choice. Like generally, because of the people that I would have played with most of the time, I would usually trust them unless something sort of came up in game where it was like, hang on a minute, what the fuck? Then I'd ask to see an army list, or because it's general courtesy. Once you get into like sort of bigger games, if you've got sort of like transport units on the field and there's special weapons here, there, and everywhere. So once you've deployed everything, you'd be like, okay, that the 5-man squad in that unit or in that transport has this. It's got the melter gun in it. That squad over there, that's got the plasma gun in it. So you generally, you will explain to your opponent what you've got and where most of the time. Like if I'm playing something different or new, I'll offer to show them my list straight off and be like, there you go, there's the iPad. If you want to have a look at the list, it's on there. And if you want to ask any questions, go for it. And I'd sort of expect the same of them.
Yeah.
But once it's sort of like a group of friends that you're kind of playing together with on a regular basis, what's the point in trying to cheat them? Because you're not going to accomplish anything. So you're going to be quite open and honest, and just plus it's just common decency. If someone's not sure about something and they ask about something, then you've got to tell them. You're not going to be like, oh, well, it's a special rule in my codex on page 84 of, like, no, you just go, oh yeah, that rule, yeah, that's it there. There you go, you can see it, have a look at it. Just don't be a dick.
Yeah, just take my word for it, Tom. All of these characters come with plague burst cannons. Yeah,
I was going to say, was that question based off when you played John and he took every weapon available?
No,
he took every weapon available, but didn't add any of the points, and just went, yeah, it's 75 points. Just like...
we agreed it as well. You agreed to it.
We did. I was just like, wow, this thing's amazing. He's going to tell us all the time.
All right, guys. So for this next part, we just want to talk about some cool characters we've each picked from our own factions that we're playing. The characters could either be from the tabletop or from the Black Library, but we're just going to pick someone that we particularly like. If there's time, we might pick some more from each other's factions. So before we go ahead, I'll put out the big spoiler warning now, because if you are, like me, still working your way through the Black Library or any other bit of lore, we are going to talk spoilers now, but obviously we'll give you a chance as we go into each character, so you can skip ahead. So with that being said, unless I've missed anything, Tom, you're going to go first.
Yeah, so obviously Blood Angels. So I was looking through a lot of the characters. Obviously there's some really well-known ones. I was going to go really boring and go Sanguinius. I know he's not boring, but everyone would pretty much pick him, I'd imagine. That's what got me into liking the Blood Angels in the first place. The golden armor, obviously, he can fly. It's pretty cool. He's got a big sword, and no, but I thought I wasn't going to go for any of the main people like Dante, Mephiston, people like that, Lamates or Astaroth. So there's one other that's still a playable character. But he's also got a little bit of lore behind him. I believe it come in reading up about it in the second edition, I think it was. So quite a long time ago, and it's Captain Erasmus Tycho. Now I don't believe there's any novels specifically written about him. Most of it is from editions and like the rule books and things like that. So Captain Tycho, he became the captain on the Second War. By the way, actually, I will just let you know, most of this is completely and utterly taken from Wikipedia and the Lexicanum, because obviously that's how we learn stuff. But yeah, the Second War for Armageddon, which is obviously to do with the Orcs, always has been many wars on that planet. That's where he became the captain, stepped up from being a sergeant. His predecessor was obviously slain. He was a rising star, pretty much. He was whispered to be amongst the higher echelons that he was going to be Dante's successor, or he was being groomed to succeed Dante, should he fall himself. He started off, there was a boss called Graka on Armageddon, and he was in charge of this massive orc warband called the Speed Freaks. As you can imagine, they're fast. So need I say more about that? But on one of his missions, what happened was he pretty much wrecked Graka completely, routed him, destroyed him, taking this massive river complex. It was a really important river, and cutting off a lot of the Orc supply lines, and then going to where the Orc supplies would have been taken, and routing all of them as well. Very fast attacks, extremely swift and brutal, and getting it done in a very ordered way. Having said that, when he was ambushing one of these sort of Orc warbands, small Orc warbands, he got attacked by an Orc weird boy, sort of like an Orc psyker. So they beat the Orcs off, they won, but he was forever left with one side of his face in a rictus grin. So it was like disabled. He couldn't change it. It was completely and utterly almost like the Joker from Batman, sort of like that type of face on one half. And the blood angels being or appreciating so much the aesthetic beauty of things, and they love their fine art and stuff like that. This was a massive deal for them, almost similar to the Emperor's Children in the Heresy. They like perfection in aesthetical things. Is aesthetical a word? It is now. Anyway, so obviously he did have a gold mask made by the best artificers he could find, I imagine, in the Legion. Beautiful gold mask just to cover that side of his face. So he sort of was a little bit contented with that, but already the bitterness and the rage had set in his heart. So by this point, he wasn't showing too much. They sent him back out to fight. He returned to duty. But by this point, everyone could tell there was something not quite right with him. He was making rash decisions, things like this. So Dante himself reluctantly assigned him to permanent battle duties, just so he couldn't be away from battle, leave him in the fray where he was best and where he could get on with his job, and hopefully the scars of the past wouldn't affect him too much. As you wouldn't imagine they would affect a Space Marine that much, but clearly they do. So even in battle, the people he was fighting with, or his battle brothers, noticed that his temper was now impacting his tactics. He was making far more audacious attempts every single battle, it seemed, and it was almost becoming foolhardy what he was doing. So that had been noticed. He was pretty much having an eye kept on him from Dante and all his peers. But then the third war for Armageddon come about, and then the big boss come back, Gazkal, and I think Gazkal was the one that we saw in Hell's Reach in the short video, the big war leader. I do believe. Is that the right one?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, cool. So he's returned, and obviously Tycho returns as well at this point. But once he returns to the planet where he was left disabled and disfigured, his mind just completely snaps. Like he'd already gone a little bit, but his mind just at this point gives up and breaks down completely. So he's naturally inducted into the Death Company. Obviously, he is the head of the Death Company. He takes command of it. So he's leading these basically gibbering idiots, well, not idiots, but gibbering wrecks of men into battle who are just feeling the rage. They just want to rip, kill, bite, anything they can to put the enemy down, and then pretty much drink their blood and tear their flesh off with their teeth and eat them at some points, which is lovely. But anyway, he leads the assault on one of the biggest hives on Armageddon, I do believe. Yeah, on Armageddon, called Tempestora Hive. And him and his Death Company go in straight at the breach, where it's obviously the hardest fighting, and they carry the day. And the only difference is he falls at the end, or at the last, should I say, he himself. But the ferocity of the assault will become legend in amongst the Blood Angels and amongst the Imperium. And pretty much, and also after that, when his body was taken back up to the Apothecarium, it was found that there was no deformity whatsoever under his mask. Apparently, it's not an official word, but supposedly his face went completely back to normal. But other than that, he's just like the reason I like the character is, or reading about the character, is because it's sort of a stark reminder that the best of the Blood Angels, or the best of the Space Marines, can always fall to a lot of the like the gene failures that they have. And so he's sort of pretty much held up as being the rising star, literally fallen to be the lowest of the low, so to speak. But in death, he redeemed himself. So all is not lost. And like I say, anyway, that's him from the lore side of things. But he's also still a playable character. He's got some pretty good traits. I'm not going to name them all. You know, you look him up yourself. It's relatively easy. But I think he's a 100-point model, and he's pretty cool actually. I'm gonna, after reading this for this podcast, I think I'm gonna buy him around about $19.99 on eBay.
Nice. And you said he's not in a book. It's just strictly lore.
If he is in books, then it would be like, I'm imagining him maybe passing comment, because I did really look it up to see, you know, because I would really love to read a book about that. Somebody that high up and that exalted, sort of going through that loss. And maybe there will be a book in the future. But I think there is one of the books in the Blood Angels second trilogy, or second omnibus maybe, that I think it said he was mentioned. But other than that, I couldn't find anything apart from the codexes and various rules and editions of things that had come out.
Because that's a cool arc, like you say, isn't it? It's Space Marines can be quite plain if on the basis, but you got somebody there's, like you say, rising star, traumatic event, and actually probably comes out with PTSD. But then because they're Space Marines, he's just got to crack on and doesn't, and then obviously goes through, like what you said, to a sort of glorious death that they all look for. So if there isn't a book, you're right. Maybe you should write it, because it's a good one.
Well, that would be it for me. That would be the end of the book, what I've just read. So, I couldn't go further than that.
I was going to say, it's interesting that he's a playable character, even though he's got like an arc that ends. There's a lot of the playable characters that their ending or where they finish up is kind of undefined. So it's like up to the player and the narrative and stuff like that. The fact that he's got a definitive, you know, he died at the end of was it the third war of Armageddon?
Yeah, the third war. I'm not sure if it was the end of the war or it was the end of the Tempestura hive being assaulted. Yeah. But
it's unusual to have someone that's got a definitive death that is still a playable character, but very cool.
Yeah, I mean, as far as I read, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know if Glenn may know or whatever, but up until I think 5th edition, it was saying that he was playable character as both, so you could play with him as he was a regular captain when he was, I think, I can't remember what he was called, just Captain Tycho, I'm assuming, or you could play with him as Tycho the Lost, which was when he was the Death Company, and obviously he had his mask on and stuff like that. But as far as I can see by looking on the Games Workshop app and in my Blood Angels Codex supplement, I think he's just one character now, and I think it's just Tycho the Lost, so you can play with him as that. But yeah, he's got some pretty decent bits and pieces going on with him. He's got I think he's got some sort of laser built into his left fist. He's got like a little laser built in. I think it's called Death's Hand. So yeah, that's a pretty cool thing. And then he's got a really awesome gun as well. I think it's like a melter stroke bolter. I think something like that. So he's not a bad little character. Wouldn't mind having him in mind.
Cool.
Should we go around and say which Blood Angels we may have? Because that wasn't what I was going to go for. I'm really not interested. He went for Tycho. I was like, which Blood Angel would I pick? And I went obvious, and I went for Mephiston. Not quite as obvious as Sanguinius, but Mephiston was where I went because I don't know. I think there's a lot of unanswered questions about Mephiston. If I was in the Inquisition, I'd be asking what's going on there. But I'm not.
I mean, that's one thing I'm really excited to look up on Mephiston. I've got the 3 books because the trilogy, I think it's written by Darius Hinks, who's apparently a hit and miss writer. I've read a couple of these things, short stories, and they're really good, but 1 or 2 that I didn't really get into. But yeah, I've got the trilogy, and a lot of people say it's around about a 3 out of. I really want to read it, but a 3 out of 5, it makes you think, oh, that's a big, it's a big task. 3 books on 3 out of 5, and they're all pretty much maybe maximum of 3.8 stars.
Yeah.
So I will read them in time, but I know that it's been said in the lore that he's supposedly the second most powerful psyker in the Imperium after the Emperor.
Yeah.
So he's pretty. I know exactly what you're saying about the Inquisition being a bit like, oh, fucking hell.
There's a load of stuff with him though, isn't there? Because it's like he's conquered the Black Rage twice.
I'm not sure. I only know of once, the first time he did it. I mean, like I say, it might be twice because there's a lot more stuff coming out about him, especially since he got his Primaris upgrade. The first time when he was trapped under the building and all that, went after getting shot down, and he was there for God knows how long, and he conquered it. And they're still not sure how he did. But yeah, that's the only one I know of. What was the second one you heard about?
Do you know what? I can't remember. I was watching a lore video the other day, one of Voldemort's, and he mentioned that it happened twice.
Yeah.
But like I know, as I said, it's something to do with there are rumours around the fact that the way he managed to conquer it is maybe heretical, i.e., involving chaos gods and whatnot. But
so using his powers to do it, sort of thing.
None of that's confirmed. Like it's what I like about him as a character is there's question marks about him. I also quite like the whole like vampire vibe he's running. Like his armor is very much like. Do you remember the Bram Stoker's Dracula with Gary Oldman?
He's got the collar and all that. Yeah.
It's very, very much that. So I think he's a very cool character with a few question marks, but that's what makes him intriguing. So that's
I think thinking about it, you saying him connecting with through his powers, connecting to the dark side, so to speak, to give him power. Could he potentially have connected with the Emperor or Sanguinius in the Vault?
Could be. Like that's what I mean. No one knows. Like that's what I like about him is it's open ended. Like and as like a Blood Angel player, you'd be like, well, yeah, that it's the good side. Whereas the Inquisition, they'll be like, no, he's tainted. Like,
which is 90% of the population of every planet in the Imperium.
Of course,
exterminate us.
Get it done.
Yeah, no, he's definitely a character I want to look more into, 100%.
But Tycho, very cool character, very good.
Does anyone else? Oh, I was going to say, does anyone else have a Blood Angel they want to talk about?
Yeah, mine would have been. Tom mentioned him already in passing. Lamartes, because he's another. He's the only battle brother to have ever overcome the Black Rage. Because Mephisto doesn't count; he's not technically a battle brother. And he's been inducted into the Death Company as their chaplain to keep them in line. And he's kept in stasis if he's not in battle, just to protect all of the Blood Angels around him. He's just quite a badass character. And just the fact that a lowly battle brother was able to overcome the Black Rage that so many hundreds and hundreds of Blood Angels have succumbed to over the years. He's just obviously a bit of a badass. Plus his model was a little bit older now. Still a really, really nice model.
Yeah. So he was like you say, as you mentioned there, he was actually just a battle brother when that took. He wasn't a chaplain who got it, the Black Rage, who had the Black Rage.
I believe he was just a battle brother. But even if he was a chaplain, the chaplains are still counted as being a battle brother, whereas librarians are a little bit outside of sort of the normal structure. But then in saying that, I think chaplains are a little bit outside as well, although they're part of the company, whereas librarians aren't. So
it's funny you should say that about the hierarchy type of things. I was looking that up and I thought, well, you got Dante and then you've got Mephiston because they're the two main characters. But looking at it, the way it's structured in the supplement book, you've got Dante, obviously, and then you've got, I think it's the chaplaincy, and then you've got the apothecarian. What's the title for that? Apothecarium, and then you've got the librarians underneath that. So actually, he's quite a long way down. Although you would think he would be the second in command, but I don't think he is. Then maybe
I don't think they necessarily run through in that order. I think that you've got like the upper echelons of command, and then the other ones are more sort of like along rather than because like.
See, that's what I thought normally.
Apothecaries aren't necessarily going to be more highly ranked than a librarian or a chaplain or whatever.
That's what I thought. But then I thought maybe it was Blood Angel specific because of the certain people who are in those roles. Sort of like, for example, you've got, I can't remember his name now. I just bought him the other day. The Apothecary. Corbulo, yeah. He's literally like, I think he's thought of pretty much up there right at the top, isn't he, as well?
Yeah.
Because he's the most like Sanguinius, he's the most that looks like him, they say, and the most that acts like him in spirit too. So maybe it's just because of the certain people who lead them groups that they put them in that order. Probably not the same for all Astartes chapters, but yeah, that's the way it's set out in the book. Makes it seem like that because there are other echelons that are leveled out as if they're equal.
Yeah.
But then them ones are one underneath each other. So if anyone else knows that,
I think that's the case in most. When you see it written down in most codexes, a lot of the time they're in a list. They're not necessarily
Yeah.
That's the most important. Whereas that, then there's that.
So I was wondering about that. Yeah, it didn't make sense to me, but yeah, that's cool.
Very, very quick tangent on the Black Rage, because I'm not a Blood Angel player or have read that much on the lore. So they fall to the Black Rage, which is the death throes, or they're envisioning the death throes of Sanguinius, right? That's
Yeah.
where the Black Rage comes from. And then if they get to the end of the battle and they've not died, what happens to them? Is that when
They get killed?
the chaplain or whoever will give them the Emperor's mercy or whatever it is?
Astaroth does it. Yeah,
So
Astaroth. He does it for the Blood Angels and all successor chapters of the Blood Angels as well.
If you don't
even the
get
Flesh
through-
Terrors.
He does it for all of them. That's the most recent thing I've written. So possibly not for them, but yeah, all the
So you have
successor
to
chapters.
you have to recover from the Black Rage within the battle, otherwise you're dead. If you're gonna do it.
Even with that, it was Astaroth that saw Lamartes hadn't, because he was about ready to execute him.
Yeah.
And then he had to be taken back and tested and tested and tested. But yeah, in theory, you would have to recover during the battle, which chances are you're not going to,
No.
because battle rage is not going to be a phenomenal way of calming down.
And the only way Mephiston did it is because he was buried under. Well, not the only way, but because he was buried under rubble, he didn't get executed during the battle. I'm guessing.
So potentially, a lot of the others could have, if given time in that certain scenario, circumstances, maybe got through it too. But I imagine, having said that, I imagine they've captured a lot of them and tested them to that degree. So maybe not.
I think they just decided they're too dangerous to keep around, and then they just do them in.
What a great way to get rid of someone you don't like. During a battle, you just shout, he's got the Black Rage.
It's the equivalent of he's a witch, isn't it?
He's a witch! Burn him!
Yeah.
Oh. Dave, do you have a Blood Angel?
I don't know. No, I would have gone for Mephiston because I know the most about him.
Yeah.
What do you know about him?
He's a psycho.
and here I was listening to you earlier saying, I've done my research on this one.
When did I say that?
On the show, on this podcast, you said.
Well, I said for my bit. I didn't say about anyone
Oh, for
else.
your bit? Oh, I see, yeah.
Oh, man.
No, you're right. He is a psycho.
Yeah. And he's a playable character, I know that much. There you go. I'm showing off now.
And do you want to know one other bit of information? He has long blonde hair.
Yeah.
Depends how you paint him.
True. Actually, yeah, that's a good point.
He has long, splotchy hair.
Is it blonde or is it white? Actually, I don't know.
Question for next week.
His model does have a bit of a smell my finger look to it going on, though.
No, not
depending on what way you build.
No,
depending on what way you build it, it does look very much like.
Mine has the plasma pistol. I'm not giving him the.
Yeah. Yeah. First time I seen that, I was like, "What the fuck is going on there?"
Wow.
Yeah, it's
because they've got that even on the front of the box. They've got that bit there.
Yeah.
No thanks.
What was I doing last night?
Smells like oak. Okay, now.
I've only little bit of research I've done, because I tried to and keep it into what I've read. So I only know one Blood Angel really, and I'll throw his name out just to see if anyone can name where he's from. And his name is Captain Kitus Frome. And
I imagine he's from one of the books you was reading, where the mega arachnids were. Was it on there?
Yeah, so he's the captain who drip fed his men into murder and let them all die. And when his guys were getting killed, they sent the message out saying, "This world is murder," because obviously he's a tactical genius. But that's literally the only Blood Angel that I know, other than the ones you mentioned. And that's cheating, really, because I don't know if he's ever spoken about anywhere else.
Probably not.
No. Cool. Shane, do you want to go into your Space Wolves?
Yeah, sure. As per my ever-changing background, I've gone for Bjorn the Fell-Handed. So venerable dreadnought of the Space Wolves Legion, oldest serving dreadnought, I believe, in the Imperium. Probably, if you counted him as a Marine, oldest serving Marine as well.
Yeah, man.
I think he is the oldest. Marine.
Yeah. Been knocking around for a long time. Was serving under the Space Wolves from the Great Crusade and throughout the Horus Heresy. Gained his name on was it Prospero in a battle against the demon, effectively, and he had to have his arm cut off because it was infected. But he was able to hold off all of the demonic issues that basically cast down the rest of his pack. So he was the last surviving member of his pack, elevated to the Wolf Guard under Lehman Russ. And because he was the last surviving member of his particular wolf pack, he was when at the end of the heresy, Lehman Russ decided to leave to go into the Eye of Terror of his wolf guard, but left behind one member, and that member was Bjorn. So he's quite a tragic character because he's always kind of dealing with this being left alone, like abandonment issue. And so he was left behind. The feeling being that he sees it obviously as, why is he being abandoned by the All-Father, by Russ?
Just got actually, daddy issues, just like Dom.
That's it. But actually, like Russ is because he knows that he's dealt with being the last of his pack and dealing with that level of command. That's why he chose to leave him, or that's the way the lore goes, that he alone knows more than any other wolf brother about how important it is to go on. And so then it becomes the great wolf of the Space Wolves, so the leader in Russ's absence, and it continues to do that until he is eventually incapacitated and has to be entombed in the dreadnought armor. And then since then has continued to go on, as I said, older serving. He's, from a playable character point of view, he's pretty badass as well. Like, he does a lot of work if you've got him as a model. I never had him. I never had the original model. I don't have the model now. The narrative player in me stops myself from buying him or wanting him, because I think he's such a special character that he should only come out for those really grandiose moments. I think like a 1,000-point army or whatever like that doesn't do him justice. So from the narrative point of view, I don't want to get him.
Poor Bjorn.
Oh, I mean, I want him. I want him as a character. I put him on my shelf, but I'd never play him because I think narratively, he's only waken up from his slumber for the real times of need. Like he was there when Magnus came to the Fang. He's been there, and
didn't he fight Magnus as well?
He did.
Have you read that book?
No, I've not read it yet. It's coming.
Let me know if you want it. I've got it. It is. Some people say it's a little bit, like you say, we've heard the phrase often, bolt upon, or a little bit too, that wouldn't happen, this wouldn't happen. I thought it was one of the best books I've read with regards to Space Marine battle books.
Yeah.
That that are pretty much specific books, although there is another one or two regarding the Space Wolves and obviously the Thousand Suns. That was an awesome book, mate. You'd love it. Bjorn he's the man in it. Trust me, he's like incredible.
I said I love him as a Marine. I love him as a dreadnought. I love him as the last of the company of Russ. I love the tie the Space Wolves have to the times of the Great Crusade right through to now. I love the fact that as I said, he's fought Magnus. He's fought demons. He kind of brokered the uneasy peace between the Inquisition, the Grey Knights, and the Space Wolves after, I think that might have been the first War of Armageddon, one of the Wars of Armageddon anyway. I can't remember which one it was. And I just, I think he's like a tragic character because he's always questioning himself, like as in, why have I been left behind? Why didn't I go along with Russ into his crusade into the Eye of Terror? And never really seeing that the reason that he was left behind because of how important he was and how he could lead the Space Wolves moving forward. So I really like the ethos behind the character and how important he is to the wolves and the wolves that come from keep coming forward, because he's that tie back to their genetic heritage. He might be an obvious choice, But the wolf, I think the Space Wolves have got so many different characters you can pick from. I just wanted, I went for one that you could play, but also is steeped in history. I said Ragnar Blackmane's a good one, but
Yeah, so that's who I would
That's the
have
one I
chosen.
picked. Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. I like him, but he's and obviously when I was younger and like first came, that was the Space Wolf to have, and obviously I've got the model, but he's not. I don't know. He's not quite got the history as Bjorn has, and that's why I went with Bjorn.
Bjorn's cool because so the only Space Wolf I know is Ragnar because I read the first omnibus, but then I was like, I just typed in Bjorn to have a look, and then I see the picture of him in that dreadnought. I was like, oh, so I went down a bit of a rabbit hole of videos yesterday, and although I try not to spoil it too much, like, yeah, I went through quite a lot of him, and I'm looking forward to like reading through some heresy and then getting on to those books that you mentioned, Tom, because he just seems like a proper badass.
Yeah.
But again, another character with actual character, because like you say, his troop got killed and then he gets left behind. He's like almost going on with like depression. So he's
that's almost carrying on from the same thing I was saying, John. Exactly what you're saying, like almost like the PTSD sort of thing, isn't it? Like they are getting these like sort of fucked up, so to speak, things happen to them, and these emotions, which a lot of the writers start off by saying, or indeed in the heresy at least, oh, they're almost like, you know, they're untouchable. Everyone thinks they're immune to this and immune to that. And the more and more you actually read about them, you realise no, they're not. It just takes a lot more to fuck them up. But when they do fuck up, they fuck up big time, and it leaves massive scars in them. And that's what I like about all of these individual characters. It's that human side of it, because although a lot of them don't see themselves as human, like Shane was saying with Bjorn, literally he's almost like literally scarred for life or the rest of his life just because his father left, which is pretty human.
And then it must just be hard as well. Like he's the oldest surviving Marine, I suppose. You just constantly watch. If he's already upset because he doesn't like people leaving him, well, now he's outliving everybody, regardless if they're getting killed. He's just remaining, and like I think they said they wake him up every 1,000 years, either for shit's hitting the fan moments or for some big ceremony.
Yeah.
So he must be waking up and being like, "Where the hell is everybody gone? I don't know any of you people." So yeah, wake him up, depress him a bit more, put him back to bed.
The first of the Lone Wolves. He's good character.
He's cool.
I think my favourite character are the Space Wolves, and I won't put any spoilers in about what happens with the character, because in the grand scheme of things, not a lot of people would probably know him anyway. But in the second omnibus, Space Wolf omnibus, there's a character that you meet when, and this, like I say, it's not a spoiler. Ragnar has to get sent to Terra for some duty, and he comes across two of his colleagues, you could say, or battle brothers, who have been there for a while, chilling out, whatever, doing whatever they are, sort of like intermediaries, I suppose, between Terra and the Wolves or whatever. And there's two of them. There's one called Torin, who's very smart, very efficient, and he's sort of like down there just to make sure things are kept democratic and whatever. But there's one other that's been sent with Torin to be on Terra, and his name's Hagar, and he's basically an enormous, the epitome of a huge Viking that just stuffs his face all the time, and he's known to be the only fat space wolf, the only
Hagar,
one.
horrible.
I've heard of this dude. Like,
and he's called. Sorry, go on.
I was going to say the reason I've heard about him is he was in a video of like literally I can't remember when I watched it, but it was like the only fat space marines.
Mate, and he is as well. Of what I read, and he's such an endearing character. And like I say again, going back to the human side of things, what had happened? I mean, it's like I say, it's not a spoiler for the story, but for maybe a little bit for him himself. He had a flaw in his gene, or in his gene seed, and it was very, very specific flaw. I mean, obviously, he was close to turning into one of the Wolfen, but he didn't. So instead, he just had certain things from them, like the hunger and the massive strength. He kept that, but he'd never, when he was able to, to fend off turning completely and utterly, raving mad, basically. So he was massive. He was already very tall, even for a space marine. He was fat. He had to have his armor sort of specially modified so he could keep his girth inside it. And he had this enormous thunder hammer. His strength was literally like double, you could say, like an average space marine, almost double double. Hang on, this doesn't make sense.
Take a
His
breath.
strength, his strength was 2 average space marines, pretty much. In one swing of a thunder hammer, I think he killed 24 cultists by throwing it down a dark alleyway, just boom, straight through them. So yeah, he was a bit of a legend. He was funny, he was kind, he was loyal as well, very loyal indeed. You'll find out what happens to him, or at the end of the books when you read them. But he was a really cool character, awesome character.
He sounds cool.
Well,
Okay.
I think I've got the final one on this, and mine would be Lucas the Trickster. He's phenomenally funny character. Don't know if he's still a playable character. I think he is.
He is. Yeah, he's still in the Codex.
What is he?
He is a blood claw because he's so despised by the leadership in the Space Wolves because he's such a colossal dick. They won't never promote him.
No wonder you like him.
Even though he's better than the vast majority of Wolfguard in combat. He's just so disruptive. No, he's really disruptive. Basically, he's just someone who doesn't take things seriously, is a bit of a wang. He's just so hated by the leaders. They've just gone, nah, you're going to be a blood claw. But he's got some really cool equipment. He's had his heart cut out by a Dark Eldar Duke and replaced with a stasis bomb. So whenever his other heart stops beating, whoever kills him will be trapped in stasis with him forever. And it's called The Last Laugh, I believe.
Yeah.
Which is his nice little, screw you, you've killed me, but I'm taking you with me, you bastard. And the other little fact I found about him when I first did my research was he was notorious on Fenris before he joined the Space Wolves for sharing the bed with over a dozen women in one night. So he's a legend.
He's a bit like if you Space Wolves, Norse mythology, all that sort of stuff. He's like Loki. He's like the god of mischief.
Yeah,
because he is called the Trickster, isn't he? You said.
Yeah.
What is it actually for? Why is it called that?
Because he wears a thing called doppelganger pelt, which I can't remember exactly what
like
it is.
Like a stealth type of a thing? Or?
It's sort of a stealth thing. It's sort of like a chameleon type thing. He's the only person to have, supposedly, to have killed one of these creatures on Fenris, the doppelganger. Or Ganger, I think it's called, whatever it is.
Doppelganger. But he
look at Shane with his pronunciation there.
Gangarel. Gangarel. The other thing I like about he's a blood claw because no Wolf Lord wants him in his company. He keeps passing him over, and that's why he's still a blood claw. And I like the fact that he's only got one heart, whereas every other Space Marine's got 2. And the reason why that was taken out, I quite like that. And I just he's quite a difficult character to play with on tabletop because you don't quite know where he fits. Like, he's a special character, but he can never be your warlord because he's the trickster and stuff like that. But he's he's quite.
They saw one of them that's just put there for the cool side of things, so to speak. I've got Lucas, I'm putting him in. Let's have a chat about him, while we're playing. But he doesn't really fit in. Yeah.
I'm not sure what way he works in the newer codexes, because previously he actually had to physically go in a unit of blood claws, whereas now characters don't join units. So does he run around as a separate character now, or is he an upgrade for our blood claw unit?
No, I think he's classed as a character, as an elite. So that's it.
Okay.
He just runs around as like an elite unit.
Yeah, because previously, whenever I'd used him before, he was in a big old unit of blood claws, and then his sort of special rules applied to the rest of the unit as well. He was quite good to have in the game because he sort of helped keep them in check and stop them charging off and doing stupid things, even though he was himself a bit of a loose cannon.
Did they transfer the stasis bomb from the book to tabletop. So if your character kills him, you'd lose
Yeah.
that as well.
Yeah,
That's
Did
in
they?
there.
yeah.
Yeah,
Oh
that's
god.
in there.
You just need to send a load of poxwalkers at it and hope for the best.
One of the stories about him as well was he put like a load of like the 40k equivalent of fleas in like the Terminator or power armor of one of like the great wolves or leaders, and that's like one of the reasons why no one likes him, because he just keeps doing shit like that to people. Like,
I think he's also trapped an Inquisition squad that came to investigate the Space Wolves in big, large creature feeding pen on Fenris as well. So that didn't go down particularly well. I can't remember what animal it was, but yeah, he's sort of like, oh yeah, in here, yeah, and they mysteriously disappeared.
And you can't execute him either, because you'll be fucked if you're the one who kills him.
exactly, yeah.
And I suppose as well, if they go to battle, no one's going to stand close to him, because if a stray round gets him, does that stray round trace back to the person who shot and take them, or if someone who stood next to him?
No, because it's obviously a status grenade, so it's
it's a bomb. Sorry,
yeah, it's a bomb in his chest, basically.
All right, so don't stand next to him on a battlefield in case
No.
he gets a stray round.
Yeah,
brilliant. That's cool. Everybody ready?
Yeah, where were we? You and Dave was going to talk about Ragnar.
Yeah. So, yeah, now we're back. So, so we've both read the first Space Wolves omnibus. So Ragnar being the main character in that. I didn't mind it. Like, I've got a bit of a 50-50 with it. I think I liked most of it. I liked the story. I found like one of the books really hard to read. I just found it a bit repetitive.
The second one.
The second one, yeah, because I mean, I don't mind it when you're learning about a character. You don't mind, or especially like a specific chapter, you don't mind sort of them hammering home a few points. But when you're 2 and 3 books in, you're still getting that he's got a good sense of fucking smell. Like I know he's a wolf, he's part wolf. I get it, chill. But anyway, he's still a cool character.
You had that discussion, John,
I was
didn't you?
say,
with William King
where
himself.
Off?
I didn't kick off. I put a question out, and I was like, "What's everyone else think of this book?" And then someone really smarmily tagged the author in it, and and then I was just like, "Oh, you had a question for me?" I was like, "No, I was just slagging off your book. I didn't mean anything bad by it. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed 90% of it. I just found it a bit repetitive in some points."
But to be fair, he was really, really like nice about it and constructive.
Yeah,
and did say the reasons why he did have to put certain things in, because he was sort of had his hands tied a little bit by, well, like I suppose it was Games Workshop more than Black Library.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and I didn't pose the question in a dickish way. I generally just asked for. I asked for opinion, and then someone decided, oh, I know what I'll do. I'll tag the author in, because that's what everybody wants. Some nobody to.
But that was the funny thing, John. When nobody. So when he actually did arrive, William King, who is a legend in our field, like I say, in our field, like we write as well. No, but you know what I mean. Obviously, he did the Gottrex and Felix stuff as well. He's done the stuff that Dave's reading now. He's a really good writer. But when he come in, he was talking to you. He was answering your questions. But then you had the fanboys around him, the ones who actually didn't have anything to say about anything, literally just going, "I love your books, man. Oh, you're the reason I've started reading with this, that, and the other." And you just think, "Oh, come on, ask him a normal question. He must get that all the time and just get fed up of it." So yeah, it was nice that he actually specifically answered you and just sort of to them, and it was like, "No."
Yeah, which is cool, because even the guy who's like, "I tagged the author," and then he was one of the main ones. He was like, "Oh, yeah. Ask him yourself. Oh, I love you," and he just got ignored. But
you on Tinder?
It was interesting. But he's a cool character, and it's like you recommended it to me because it was a very good. This is how someone got selected into become Astartes, and you really actually do get a really good in-depth look into.
Yeah, I mean,
going from human to that elevation, which I really like.
More specifically, like you say, the first book, like you just mentioned there, it was sort of like I can't think of many other books that go into that much depth of actually becoming an Astartes warrior. There are a few, but also, like you say, going right the way through to becoming eventually captain. You know.
Yeah, and it's like and it's all good because you sort of go through the books of various stages of his life, and it's all flashbacks as well to sort of get you there. So you even like he's on the boat. I really like this actually about him because I just thought he was a bit of an arse from the beginning, and I like this first book because when he's still a human, they're taking. I think he's one of the Wolf Lords, or I can't remember what they're called.
The Rune Priest, wasn't he?
Rune Priest. Yeah, he's taken the Rune Priest across the sea, and they get attacked by this dragon. And there's a guy called Yorick the Harpooner who sees this fucking dragon come out of the sea and actually like shits himself, as I think anybody would. It's a reasonable. Doesn't matter if you're a soldier or not. A dragon coming out of the sea is pretty scary. And this guy screams. Then the dragon swoops down and picks him up and basically kills him. And he drops a harpoon. And then the line is Ragnar sneered. He always knew Yorick was a coward, and now he had proof. The guy got ate by a fucking dragon.
A sea dragon, yeah.
I know. Leave him alone. But yeah, I mean, I think everybody knows he goes from new initiate up to captain, and there's a pretty good route. I've only read the first trilogy, and I do want to read. I know I moaned about it, but it's only a bit of a joke. I do want to read the second trilogy, especially for like the characters that you mentioned earlier.
Yeah, it is really good, mate. It's worth it. I mean, I think I remember it was a long time ago. I read both, but I remember the second omnibus being slightly. I don't know. I think the first one was a little bit better, maybe. But the second one had better characters in, if that makes sense. The first one's story was better, and obviously getting to know Ragnar. But the second one had better characters in. But it was, you know how Space Marine things go. Sometimes it's a little bit samey.
Yeah. He had a good dynamic through the first one with Stryborn, because obviously their clans attacked each other and they kill each other, and that's how they get elevated. So he's like going through training with this guy, and even through to the third book, they're going on all these missions as battle brothers. But every now and then he's like, "Is he going to try and kill me? Should I kill him now?" And then just never quite give into it. So there's quite a good arc with those two, because obviously they save each other a number of times. And also in the second book, it was the first part of the second book that was hard. You get a guy from the Inquisition gets his head blown up by by a Nurgle demon, which is pretty awesome.
A Nurgle demon? I can't remember that.
Yeah, because he has to help them go and find basically a planet. The Inquisition come because a planet's been taken over by a plague and that, and they find this relic that the Space Wolves have, and they go looking for a couple of other pieces to take it back to this world, and then they end up in a trap, and this Nurgle demon basically puts a tentacle through this Inquisitor's head, blows him up. There's pretty graphic scenes.
See, I can't remember any of that.
Yeah.
Oh my god, yeah, I might have to go back and read that. I say that about every book. I'm not gonna. Let's just.
And then like the third one is where I think the Thousand Sons take over a planet where the Spear of Rust was left, and Ragnar and I think all the Space Wolves assemble there and fight off. And Ragnar uses that spear to kill or to stop this invasion going on. And I think the fallout of that is the reason why he sent to Terra. But I can't quite remember.
Isn't it? I mean, without giving away obviously spoilers, but the enemy, isn't it always? Is it Maddox the name of the enemy? The Thousand Sons enemy?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, the sorcerer. Yeah, cool. Yeah. Well, at least it one thing right.
He threw the Spear of Rust to stop the whatever they were doing to bring in the demons, and that therefore it was lost. So there was like questions about his sort of why he did that as well at the end of the third.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Getting punished for doing the right thing.
Yeah.
Because of a bit of sentiment, because they were sentimental about an old stick.
He's also, if I remember correctly, he's the only Warlord that has now become Primarist. So because of his the War of the Beast, where he takes on Ghazghkull, and they end up nearly killing each other.
Is this a spoiler, Shane?
This is
it's all spoilers.
I know.
Spoilerific episode.
I'm just thinking there's about 1,000 books I can't read now.
Yeah, it's spoilerific, but yeah, it's the War of the Beast expansion of 8th edition, and that's why they brought out the new Ghazghkull and Ragnar models, because it was those two going up against each other. And like obviously they can't kill either character off because they're too important. So they worked out a bit of plot armor to keep them alive. But that's why Ragnar becomes Primaris, is because of his battle with Ghazghkull.
To be fair, the plot armor that they use to keep Ghazghkull alive is pretty slim.
Ghazghkull's got some solid plot armor. He's got some of the best plot armor.
Ragnar cut his goddamn head off, and their solution was they just sort of sewed it back on again, and it was okay because he's an orc.
There's rumors abound that Gork and Mork are the most powerful chaos gods in the Warhammer thing. Is that whatever you want to call them, Gork and Mork are the most powerful deities. So if you want to sew a head back on.
Well, if he thought he had a head, if he just convinced himself he had a head, by orc logic, he would have had a head.
Well, there's another theory as well, and I don't know, just in case it's going to be talked about. Commissar Yarrick, one of the reasons why he got through Armageddon is because the orcs believed he was so powerful as like this orc slayer, and that's why he kept being able to defeat them, because they just believed he could, and that's how orc stuff works, right? If enough of them believe that's the case, that's what happens. And
also, let's not forget they're a fungus as well. So it's sort of like if you take the top of a certain plant and put them in some soil, they'll grow. So why not put his head on and it will grow again?
Yeah.
They're literally like sort of plants, basically, aren't they? The orcs are plants. Yes, you've learned something today.
Edible.
The episode.
Yeah.
Exterminatus. No, Jeff.
Right. Who wants to go next?
Thanks for that sneer, Glenn.
Oh, sorry, I was actually burping and I didn't want to just burp into my microphone, so I was trying to like subtly do it off to the side. Yeah, cheers for bringing attention to it, though.
It's a good excuse.
Who's next, John? Where are we going next?
Who wants to go next?
I'll go next. I'll get out of the way. So
give us some Templars.
From Black Templars. So originally, obviously, I wanted to do Sigismund because I think that he probably is so far the coolest character that I've actually found in all lore, all chapters. I just think that he's completely fucking awesome. But I decided, obviously, see Grimaldus behind me, Merrick Grimaldus, the Reclusiarch of the Black Templars. Obviously Hell's Reach was the reason that I got into Black Templars. So the main character of that, I think it would be obvious basically why I'm going to choose him. He sums up everything that the Black Templars are for me. He's just completely fanatical in his sort of hatred of everything mutant and Xenos, and not 100% sort of humanity driven. So obviously a bit of history for him. He was the youngest ever sword brethren for the Black Templars at the time, at least. And he eventually obviously was raised to the Marshal's sword brethren. And due to his sort of fanaticism and faith in the Emperor, he was basically brought into the ecclesiasm as a chaplain. And that's basically what he was up until the Third War of Armageddon, which is basically where he made his name as the hero of Hell's Reach. But obviously, for everyone who's read the book, they know about it. Hive Hell's Reach, 100 Marines basically sent from the Black Templars to assist the Imperial Guard in holding Hell's Reach. And the story is awesome. And I think that basically he was the last man standing from the 100 Templars that were sent there. And without going into too much details, the Orcs in ridiculous numbers basically took over the Hive, led to a last stand in a fortress monastery, which eventually, due to the fury of the battle, obviously fell down and was destroyed with Grimaldus inside. And he was the only person to actually sort of exit from the ruins of this monastery, and in pure, obviously, sort of chaplain reclusiarch fashion, he came bearing the holy relics that were kept within, which obviously, as a playable character, are carried still by the servitors that sort of go with him on the tabletop now. As obviously he was lauded as Hell's Reach, but there was a few bits and bobs after, obviously with the Celestial Lions in the Mannerheim Gap. But there's obviously quite a lot. I won't go. There's so much sort of history and lore regarding the Celestial Lions and how they sort of ceased to be. But he was very, very close to them, and obviously assisted them in the Mannerheim Gap during the War of Armageddon. And yeah, I just think he's an awesome character. He sums up everything for the Black Templars for me. Just hatred of everything that isn't 100% sort of. Yeah, so yeah, that's why I like him. Obviously, I would have picked Sigismund otherwise. And I've recently bought the model, so I'm looking forward to actually painting that and bringing it on the tabletop, because I think he's got quite a few, obviously, sort of character-specific litanies and stuff like that he can bring, and obviously help the Black Templars to purge
John's army.
Yeah, filthy Nurgles.
I didn't even know he was playable still, or that he even had a mini, which is very cool that he does.
Yeah, it is old. It's on the Finecast. It's one of the Finecast ones, but it is cool. It is a cool mini, and the servitors as well. They look cool because they're obviously carrying the relics. So on the tabletop, you can make them look quite cool.
Yeah, he's a very, very cool character. As I said, I think we talked about it before, Dave, in the beginning of one of the podcasts, is that Hell's Reach story. And I like, if you've watched the YouTube, well worth watching the YouTube series as well.
Richard Boylan, isn't it? The one.
Yeah.
First, yeah.
It's amazing. Like, up until that point, I didn't really know much. I knew a bit of the lore of the Black Templars, but didn't know any of the characters or anything like that. And I watched that and was like, all right, I get why you've picked that army. Like, he's amazing. Just the way he goes about it, like his interactions with the Mechanicus as well, how he gets the Titan on board, and like
well, basically I'm having a fucking Titan. What? I'm having your weaponry. Fuck you. I'm gonna go get it.
That's exactly it, Shane. Shane's just hit the nail on the head for me. All I had nothing for the Templars for Dave. I just thought Grimaldis, everyone's going to say that. And I simply put Grimaldis, spoke down to a Titan. That was it.
Yeah.
You just hit the nail on the head.
Yeah.
He literally threatened to kill the crewmen just to get in. He was like, I'll just come in and do it myself, basically. And then, got her on board. I thought that was brilliant.
Yeah. It was the bit that I found, and maybe this is more Black Templars side of things, is it almost felt like it was orchestrated that he had to go there by, I don't know how the Black Templars work in terms of order, but like the chapter master or the company master, whoever it was, was like, you have to go and do this in Armageddon, defend this hive, even if it's like, it's almost like he was sending him to his death purposely.
Yeah,
so I don't know if that.
It sort of had the sort of feeling of like a pilgrimage almost. Like there's 100 of you, off you go, hope for the best, and sort of bring the sort of righteous fury to the Xenos, basically.
I didn't get that. I didn't get that from that.
Especially as he was sort of only just made reclusiarch and given the Crozius literally just before going down to Hell's Reach. I think there's a sort of the religious side of things, and I can see what you're saying about how he sort of sent down there to die almost. I think that
I almost thought it was almost like Helbrecht wanted to get rid of him because he was a threat. I know that sounds really bad because it's probably not the case, but particularly watching the YouTube video of it, it really comes across like, no, you're going to do this for Maldis, blah blah blah. Go down there. Yeah, you're going to die. If he's one of the highest, if you know you're sending him down there to die on an almost pointless mission, why would you do that to one of your best? But like you say, Dave, it could have also been, for your glory type of thing. You will, get glory out of this. So, but at the time, I did think it was almost like he was trying to have him bumped off, get him out of the way, sort of thing.
Yeah. I didn't really get that from the book. Obviously, in the book,
I didn't.
He has doubt. he has doubt. Why me? Why am I being sent? And I think one of his most famous is, I've dug my grave here. I'll either, I can't remember the exact sort of thing, but I'll either prevail or die. And I think that he was important to hold the whole thing, the hive in general, because of his sort of fanatical faith in the emperor.
The only man who could, sort of thing.
Yeah, he literally. I don't think anyone else could have inspired the Imperial Guard to actually sort of hold and last as long as they did, basically.
I thought it was interesting as well, his dealings with the salamanders as well, like during that period, and like how it was different. And I liked the bit, I think it was the Emperor's champion during the whole story, like says to him at one point, like, I spoke against your like being promoted to this position, and then that Emperor's champion dies, and then he passes it over to the other Marine who
Priamus. At Bell End.
But it's a really
liked him.
It's a really good like story point, and again reiterates how much like he was able to get out of everyone. Like, and as I said, when I read into it, when I watched it, like I said, never looked into the Black Templars before other than the surface lore, and then watched Hell's Reach and was like, yeah, okay, I'll get this now. This dude's amazing.
And actually, on obviously Hell's Reach, and if I was looking up Black Templars characters, thinking I don't know an awful lot other than Sigismund and Grimaldis, pretty much the ones that were in that book. I went back. There's another two books I've got as well, because I just went for a mad phase of collecting books, pretty much. Two more Armageddon books as well. I'm assuming it's from the Second War. I haven't properly looked at them, but they've got Black Templars in as well, obviously. So has any of you read any of them?
I looked in. I haven't read it. I looked into getting them.
Jonathan Green, I think it was, or something. Yeah, the writer.
I think they're after. I think they're still Third War of Armageddon.
Was it?
Yeah.
So it's a long war then, I'm assuming, obviously.
Well, I think the law is actually unending. I think Gazkul fucked off and basically said, I can't win this. But I think there is still a war technically on Armageddon in law-wise. It just hasn't finished yet. It's just unending stalemate. Humans in the hives and orcs running around fucking building gargants and whatever they do.
Rusty metal. Yeah. With no gears, but they believe it works, so who cares?
Orc magic.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, really, they should have absolutely taken over the entire universe by now, shouldn't they? They believe they're the best. That should just be it. They are the best.
It's because what they don't believe in is taking stuff over. They just believe in having a good fight.
That's a good point, actually. Yeah, they don't believe in settling, do they? They just want to keep moving on and fighting, and they're always fighting against themselves as well. So yeah, that's true.
If they're united, then yeah.
If they had a brain, they'd be dangerous. Any more Black Templar, Glenn?
Yeah, mine would have been sort of unpopularly from the rest of yous. Would have been Helbrecht. Everyone else has gone, oh, Grimaldis, Helbrecht's a bit of a dick. I quite like Helbrecht.
I like Helbrecht.
He's got like a really good rivalry with not one, but sort of like the two main characters of different armies, being Gazgul and Imitek as well from the Necrons. He's like proper hatred of both of them, and like proper good personal battles with them. And he's generally just a bit of a badass, because a lot of characters that I pick that I like the look of are because they're good on tabletop, and he is quite a very strong character, because at the end of the day he's the equivalent of a chapter master, even though he's a high marshal, but he's the leader of a Space Marine army, so he's going to be a pretty tasty model to use.
I think as well, because he's one of the best.
What the fuck?
Got again.
Dave,
I know, Dave.
Fuck's sake.
What just happened?
It's an imperial
Humpty Dumpty fell off the wall.
And assassins just come out of the woodwork and
I've got a fucking, I've got my iPad precariously balanced on top of two fucking boxes.
Mm.
How does that make you fall?
Flips off.
The
Was
background.
that the iPad? I thought that was you falling backwards. That's what it looked like. Oh my god! Because the
Tell me you missed
background
it the
stayed
first
there.
time. Oh,
What did I miss?
He did it earlier when you was all having a toilet
Fucking
break.
hell. I thought he'd cracked his skull open. That's why I was like, "Dave, you all right?" I just saw his head go like that.
Oh gosh.
Fucking hell.
Fuck's sake.
Ah.
What I was going to say about Helbrecht is obviously he's supposed to be the number one sort of space commander of like the ships and the actual sort
Yeah,
of
he's a
space
really
battles.
good like
And
fleet
he-
commander.
Yeah, and he led it on the War of Armageddon, basically trying to get all the fleets together to stop them actually landing, which isn't very good on tabletop, but it's quite a cool sort of from lore perspective.
Yeah, I like whenever Gasgol left Armageddon the first time, he took Yarick with him as well to go chase after Gasgol, which most Marine chapters wouldn't be like, oh yeah, little human, yeah, come with us. So he does hold humanity quite highly as well. Like he values their contribution compared to maybe some other chapters, not so much. But yeah, that's
And
all
other
I've
Black
got for
Templar
him.
as well, to be fair.
Yeah, true.
Cool. Anyone
So
else?
that's the Black Templar.
The only Black Templar I know is Sigismund. That's only from reading, because obviously he was with Dawn when they rescued Garrow, if I'm not mistaken, Shane.
Yes, yeah, quite
Yeah,
correct.
so
Yeah,
he
that's
was
very
there,
true.
one of the first who weren't on Istvan to hear of the heresy that's taken place.
He does come into it more as
Yeah.
well as the story
And then
goes.
he pops up at the end of Mechanicum and does a bit of a hard evac of as much as they can get their hands on. But that's all I know of him so far.
Apart from the fact that he's also supposedly the best swordsman in the Imperium, or that's what they think, isn't he? At that point,
really?
in heresy,
One of the best, I'm sure.
one of the best. Yeah.
I'm sure
He's the
Lucius would like to argue that.
Well, as we all know, Lucius. Well, I'm not going to say anymore.
We've seen the pictures.
Yeah, no worries. I will do. But there's another guy you have to worry about as well, who's not. I'm not going to mention the name or the chapter. There's another guy you have to worry about.
Thanks for that.
Just a
Gonna be a bit
teaser.
more vague.
We'll get to it. We'll get to it eventually.
What book are you talking about? Because I'm trying to think who you mean.
You know, Glenn. Glenn, I'll message you. I'm not going to say it on here because it's a massive spoiler.
Not even the book. Okay, fair enough. All right.
Oh no! Oh no! Hang on. The book. Oh God, I can't remember what book it was in. Oh no! I'll have a look and I'll send it to you.
Yeah, no worries.
So down to me or you, Glenn. Do you want to do yours first?
Yeah, I'll go with mine.
Cool.
Obviously, because we're sort of getting on time-wise, I'm only going to go
2.5 hours.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so I'm going to go with my second choice, which is not my tabletop one. It is from the Black Library. So
you had to go the one that was going to be a spoiler for me, didn't you? Yeah. Fuck's sake! Really?
He's a
It's a
much
spoiler
more
for me,
interesting. He's a much more interesting character. He's a complete badass. He is Scout Sergeant Owen McCall from the Tanith First and Only. So he's the guy that basically trains all the scouts for the Tanith Regiment. He has a massive list of like greatest hits in the books, including things like he has single-handedly killed a Chaos Dreadnought by using sort of ingenuity and the local flora because of being able to overload his lasgun, which created a crack in the outer bit of the dreadnought to get at the gooey stuff on the inside. And then the local plants that were around fired poisonous barbs at things. So he was able to open the dreadnought to get the poison into it so it would kill the dreadnought. He has, what else has he done? He has out-stealthed a mandrake from the Dark Eldar, who's basically creatures of shadow. So he's able to hunt a mandrake that had been selected as an assassin. He has, on one of these several times, he's been feared dead, been able to infiltrate a city himself and keep the army leader long enough to basically blow up the entire room that they were in, and it looked like it had taken him out as well, but he survived that one. He has been part of basically a suicide squad assassination mission onto an enemy held planet, where they then got stuck and helped form the local army into like a guerrilla resistance army. It's one page. He's rescued his commander on multiple occasions from capture, mostly by little suicide mission type things. He's befriended a space marine from the White Scars who was on mission with them for a particularly hazardous battle. He's from the White Scars, and McCall was able to out-stealth him as well. When the space marine said, but two of my brothers have joined us, McCall then revealed that, and just because of that, I've put a lot of mines all over this disused part of the ship, so if you did capture me, one guardsman would have taken out 3 space marines, so that's pretty favourable to what the guard would consider. He is... the last point about him is a huge spoiler for anyone who hasn't read the Ghost Scars
who's going to say
novels.
huge penis?
He probably has that as well, to be fair.
I've had my earphones out from the beginning anyway.
Okay. Yeah, he is essentially the one who kills the...
I don't want to hear a spoiler.
he kills the leader, or the most dangerous leader of one of the chaos leaders, generals, whatever they're called, in the entire sector. He's the one that essentially does him in at the end.
So he's a Johnny Rambo sort of character.
He is a little bit, but he's not a dick. He's not an ego person. He's like a really quiet, reserved, knows he's really good at his job, takes a massive amount of pride in it. But like from the characters in the Gaunt's Ghost books, he's one of the ones that is there from the very start. He's there towards the very end. You're not going to get sort of 15 books worth of stuff about various characters without getting like an amazing bit of character development. He's one of the characters that has been fleshed out the most. There's loads of like little things about his character as well. Things like he's pretty much entirely silent as he moves, but whenever he approaches the command tent, he specifically does a little sound to make it seem like he's a normal person. But because it's a specific sound, the commander knows it's him, and he can't work out in his head why the commander knows it's him, even though he's supposed to be this amazing stealth person. It's the fact that he purposely makes the sound. He also can sit on chairs without them creaking, which annoys the other guys in the unit, because they're like, "Oh, why is my chair creaking?" He's like, "I'm just better than you." So he swaps chairs. He sits down in the chair perfectly silently, and the other guy's like, "Ah!" So, yeah, he's just an amazing character all around. So Tom is completely pissed off.
I was going to say, so he's not playable.
No, I think there may have been rules at one point for the Tanith first and only, as a like several codexes ago, because there is models for them, like going back to pre-Finecast metal models, and they're ridiculously difficult to get hold of because they're obviously such a popular series of books, and they only did a small amount of them. But yeah, he's a phenomenal character.
Very cool, very cool. You weren't tempted by my pick of Sly Marbo?
I did look at him. He is just a bit. He's a bit too over the top. He's a bit too.
It's insane.
Like he is Rambo. He's Rambo
He
on like space steroids though. For like the story wise.
It was a whole weird thing. I was talking to John about it the other day, and I was like, "Oh yeah, I want to talk about Sly Marbo and the fact that his surname is an anagram of Rambo, and obviously his first name is obviously Sylvester Stallone's nickname." And I was actually in a total side tangent. Tommy, you're okay. We're not talking about.
Oh, thank God for that.
It was a total side tangent. I was watching Predator. And I tried to correlate the Predator as in the film, its release date, and when Games Workshop released the Catachan Jungle Fighters, because I was like, a squad of Catachan is just the cast of Predator, and I was like, this has got to be exactly the same, and that's like Sly Marbo, and I was like, it's all the same. It's that 80s action hero. And what was quite interesting is I was watching a video about it actually, and they were trying to make the case that Sly Marbo is a living saint like Celestine, because he just it will drop into a warfare situation and just sort of run around killing everyone like a one-man army and then disappear again. And it was like, I love the fact that they tried to bolt on legitimate lore to what is effectively just a pastiche of Arnie and Sylvester.
Yeah,
I love a bit of Sly Marbo.
Have you seen that artwork as well? The one when they're in the forest and you've got that black guy who literally looks like the guy from Predator as well, Carl Weathers.
Carl Weathers, yeah.
Yeah. And like that, and then you've got the guy with the big knife as well, with the red headband, with the six-pack out, and that in the middle of the jungle. That's an awesome photo. I'm going to share that on a group later, just because that is an amazing pic.
Slime, outside of that, like I said, I don't know much about the Imperial Guard, but Sly Marbo was my go-to.
Yeah, he's one of the few like sort of playable characters that has like a really good, fun bit of lore to him. It's like the others, things like Creed and Pask and all that. It's sort of like, right. you're a guardsman. You're just a man. You've been involved in some battles, but that's why I sort of felt I had to go Black Library for mine, because there's just a bit more interest and stuff.
Yeah, so I do have to say I will apologise that I had to go off of the earphones there, but that it is because of Glenn anyway, because he's said how good these books are, these Gaunt's Ghost books, and I was going to sit through that as well. Until before he went, there's massive spoilers, big spoilers. But at the beginning of this, when he went, honestly, massive spoiler. I just went, the way he said it was so like, this is going to ruin every book for you. I was like, but yeah, no.
Well, no, not every book, just the
main ones.
Just the end.
Who needs an end to any story?
Anyone else got a guard?
I was going to say, John, Dave, you got any?
No, I don't. I don't know enough about the guard, I'm afraid.
I've got 3, not in much detail, to be honest. Caiaphas Cain, he's a commissar. I don't know if he's not really cast as a guard, but I would mention him just because I like his wit and the fact that he's a complete and utter coward, and he's pretty much I suppose you could call him Blackadder, if anyone's ever seen Blackadder. Yeah. Glenn was the one who actually told me that in the first place, about him being similar to Blackadder. And he's got a little sidekick called Jurgen, who's sort of like Baldric. He stinks, he reeks. You know when he's there from just smelling which direction the wind's coming across you. You're like, Jurgen, all right, how you doing? And he's bringing him his Tanner tea, which he drinks. Tanner tea, is that?
Yeah, with his Meltagon. He's always got a Meltagon.
And he's this filthy little creature, extremely loyal, and seems thick, but at the same time unable to get anything that anything that Cain actually wants, anything, including tanks, like Glenn said, a massive melter gun for himself. They go on mission. He's just sort of like, Jurgen with his melter gun. Yeah. Which is apparently like a ridiculously sought after thing in the guard, especially. Yeah. So that's the first one. The second one would be Trooper Andre from Hell's Reach.
Oh, okay.
And I think I mentioned that because I think most of you guys will know of him, and just the fact that you don't get many books where you have like a guardsman who's got that type of a humour, who's like sort of, okay, you know, I'm seeing this and I'm seeing that, but I'm still going to make jokes. I don't care. Yes, my woman's died, but you know, it's just sort of like, let's just get on with it. You know, I'll still be funny. I'm sort of he's kind of hopeful sort of thing, you know. And although the grim darkness of the far future is supposed to be that way, it's still nice to see someone who's got a little bit of hope and a little bit of comedy that makes you think, even if this planet did eventually end up like that, there would still be some relatively normal guys around.
Well, right at the end of Hell's Reach, when right at the end when he survived, he's had that chat with Grimaldus. I can't remember what he says, but Grimaldus in his helmet is like, that made me smile, and then walks away. So he's
this
like,
makes me smile. Yeah,
he actually good connection there because he's a proper character again.
Yeah. And then there was one more, and I had the name in my head. I looked it up and I thought I won't forget this, but it was the guy from 15 Hours. Like he's not a major character or anything, but the guy from 15 Hours, the main character who goes through it, and I won't say what happens to him or one way or the other, but yeah, whoever that was, if anyone can remember, we've all read the book, but none of us can probably remember the name.
I can't remember his name.
So, yeah. Just like a normal guardsman. Yeah, exactly. He's just a number. What number was it? 7. We'll say 7. But yeah, that was
lucky. He was lucky number 7. Is that it?
7's the sacred number, according to
come on.
Come on.
Here we go.
Yeah. All right. Well, so yeah.
On that note,
we'll go to me. We'll end on the chaotic side. I've gone for Typhus. Pre-warn, I don't know a lot about it. Everything that I'm going to talk about now is off of the Warhammer wiki and a couple of videos. So if I got anything wrong, don't blame me, blame YouTube. But basically,
heresy.
So yeah, Typhus, he was born on Mortarian's adopted planet of Barbaris as Callus Typhon, and he was the bastard son of a psycho-mutant warlord who had his way with a human woman. When he was born obviously with mutant blood, giving him psychic abilities. Originally, as a child, he managed to sort of master them and sort of use them for his own benefit. And because he was different to the humans that he lived with, he was obviously sort of ostracized, and that gave him sort of his first sort of tough shell. And obviously you can't talk about him without talking about Mortarion. So Mortarion obviously came to Barbaris. He was captured by the warlords because of obviously he being a Primarch and stood out. So they were able to sort of capture him. And then I believe for some chain of events led them to the same part. Typhus or Typhon was the first human that Mortarion ever saw. And I believe Typhon's people were being transported, and Typhon managed to escape and save some people and convince Mortarion to help, forming their bond, and then they were together from there, and helped him sort of do whatever they did until the Emperor turned up. And when the Emperor turned up with the Dusk Raiders, as they were, they did their sweep of selecting people that could join the Death Guard, and Typhon had to suppress his psycho abilities because Mortarion was completely against using psycho abilities. He believed that you needed to be a strong warrior, and the way that he toughened up his warriors was by exposing them to the poisonous gases and stuff. So Typhon was able to actually become double strong again because he wasn't using his psychic abilities, but he managed to use his other abilities to elevate himself and become sort of invaluable to Mortarion from the off. So he was straight away brought in. And an interesting thing, whether it's true or not, that I read was that because of his age, he wasn't able to become Astartes properly, like the way they do. But but because he was like that invaluable, they did enough genetic work on him, and he was already a big dude to just sort of bring him into sort of, you wouldn't know any different. Whether I've got that completely right, I'm not sure. So from there, he obviously earned his title as first captain, and he's so sort of powerful and strong that he had sort of the ability to take almost mortal wounds and deflect, and almost show no sort of scar, which sort of raised questions that raised doubts in people's mind that were never questioned. And even the Death Shroud respected Mortarion, and he's the only person that they would actually take orders from, whether it was through pure respect or actual fear. I'm not too sure. And he was a true hero until, because there's like one thing I saw, he actually threw himself down onto a grenade to save a group of battle sisters. So he was heroic for a time, and then he met some dickhead called Erebus, who showed him the Book of Lorgar and inducted him into the Seven Pillar Lodge, and basically said, hey man, you're a pretty cool dude, but if you wanted to use that psychic ability, you would actually outshine even Mortarion. And obviously Typhon always held this sort of grudge that he couldn't use his full ability, even though he was almost like the most powerful person in the Legion. Who doesn't want more power? So immediately he was susceptible to the idea of chaos, and he was one of the first on board with that. And then we'll fly forward to the events of Istvan and the heresy unfolding. He was well in the know on that, and after all that happened, I don't know the full details because I haven't read that, but Mortarion ordered the fleet to head to Terra with the other traitor legions to take the war to the Emperor. And en route, they obviously go through the warp, and because Typhon knows what's going on there, and he wants to bring everyone into the fold of Nurgle, he actually hatches a plan, and they kill all the navigators and basically lie to Mortarion, saying actually they were communicating with Malcador back on Terra and giving him a warning. And he says, I can get us to Terra, but I'll have to use my psychic ability. And so Mortarion relents and lets him do it, but instead Typhus takes him straight into a trap and opens the fleet up to Nurgle and allows basically the plagues to take over, and slowly but surely even Mortarion struck at this point with illness, until they all start giving themselves over to chaos to take away the pain, and then the Death Guard were born anew as Plague Marines, and Typhon was rewarded. He changed, obviously he was reborn as Typhus. He grew in size, his skin fused with his Terminator armor, and he grew those big bones out the back of him, which just filled with these bloated flies and stuff, which ate away his insides and hollowed him out and basically turned him into a walking hive. And he obviously became Typhus. After the war on Terra, Mortarion's forces are sort of chased away. They go on the Great Scouring, and eventually they go into the warp and find the Plague Planet, which Mortarion rebuilds as his homeworld, which disgusts Typhus because he doesn't understand why he's being so nostalgic. So he gathers anybody who wants to go out in the galaxy and kill stuff, you come with me, and builds his fleet essentially, and becomes Typhus the Traveller. Goes around just spreading diseases. I think he creates like the zombie plague, which essentially is turning people into zombies, but probably in a bit of a more gory way. And other than that, he's actually walked in the Garden of Nurgle, which is pretty cool. And yeah, he actually was there when the legions of Khorne invaded and tried to destroy the garden, and he managed to fight them off and went one-on-one against a gigantic demon prince of Khorne. And every time he sort of wounded it, infected him more, and was able to behead this beast. And then he took its guts as a gift to Nurgle's cauldron. And as a reward, he was allowed to go to the Throne of Decay and dip his scythe into the filthy pool around it, thus making him even more powerful. The only reason sort of he was allowed to sort of do all this is because Mortarion didn't want to stop him, because Mortarion has obviously daddy issues, and thought, well, the Emperor kept me on a leash, I'm not going to do that to Typhus. So they actually, although Typhus feels that he's actually the true son of Nurgle and greater than Mortarion, they will still fight side by side if it will do them both if they both get a good outcome out of it. But really, they're almost completely separate. Even though they're both Death Guard, they're almost completely separate now. And that's about all the research. He's a cool model. If you can paint him better than me, he'll probably look better. And obviously, he's a good character. Not that I know, but just looking at a few battle reports, looks like he's going to be good if I can get him in and amongst your guys when we do play. So that's me rattling that off.
I hate him. I hate him. No, honestly, everything you just said, right, it makes a lot of sense, and it's actually quite good to know, because I didn't know a lot of that later stuff, the issues between him and Mortarion. And to be honest, it's not really a spoiler. It's just sort of like a little bit of lore, really, isn't it? I mean, but him, Mortarion, and Nurgle is almost like a weird triangle, then, isn't it? It's sort of like Nurgle's the real daddy, sort of thing. Yeah. But then you got his two sons. But then one of them, it's almost like Nurgle's the grandfather, Mortarion's the dad, and then Typhus is the son. I mean,
I think the way that
then they see themselves equal now, sort of.
Well, the way it's sort of explained is that Typhus would have never got to where he was without Mortarion, because I think I don't know if it's explored further properly. I literally just read sort of the cliff notes. I think when they were on Barbarus, Typhon probably would have been killed. He probably would have been killed, but managed to convince Mortarion to sort of save him. So there they were almost in each other's pockets, because then Typhon went on to fight with the Primarch, and always knew. I think from there he always thought he could do great things, because obviously he was a psyker, but because Mortarion said suppress it, he did. And then obviously Erebus turning up and saying, actually, read this book, it's going to open your eyes. I think that maybe he doesn't really need Mortarion
as much as he thought.
And he feels like he's actually the true son of Nurgle, and Mortarion was a stepping stone to get him there, because he sees weakness in Mortarion.
So with Mortarion, I mean, not just for you, any of you guys, if you know, he's obviously become like a demon of a chaos demon of Nurgle, or whatever he is now. But is he actually a psyker now? Does he have psychic abilities, or still no? I mean, in the model itself, or in general in lore?
I don't actually know.
If only someone had the Nurgle Codex, the Death Guard Codex.
The Nurgle Codex.
The battle reports that I've read is that Mortarion doesn't, but Typhus does, and that's played out in some of the other bits of lore. But I think I always find what's interesting there is that when you look at Typhus and Mortarion and their dynamic, it's almost like Mortarion, if he may never have gone Nurgle. Like Nurgle was never, his desired thing. That was more Typhus or Typhon.
Yeah.
It was more like, that's where I'm going to end up. And that's cool with me. And he dragged the rest of the Legion there. Whereas Mortarion was kind of like,
Chaos Undivided.
Yeah, he never, if chaos at all. He just, he never really seemed to be in it too much, other than that was the side he fell.
Yeah, so I was just reading, really. So he followed Horus because, so obviously when he was brought up on Barbarus, he was enslaved and he was used as a weapon by the demons or whatever they were, the warlords. And then the Emperor come, saved him, brought him into the fold, and then used him as a weapon. And then he obviously felt the comparison there. And then obviously the reason everyone got upset is because the Emperor went back to Terra and left him to it. So he had those daddy issues. And then because Horus was willing to stand up to him, he sided with Horus because of daddy issues, essentially. So I think, yeah, he may have just gone to Chaos undivided, but because Typhon already had this plan in place and had already made some deal somewhere with a demon of Nurgle, that's sort of what brought him into the fold. I think that's just from what I've read.
I think it's a strange one, the Death Guard, isn't it? All together. I mean, not so much the later years, the 40k sort of stuff. You know, we all know where they are then. But the early side of the Death Guard is it's a very difficult story to understand, really. The way that he's come from being like, you know, completely anti-psycho, completely no, I'm straight down the line sort of thing. You got to be tough or nothing. And then all of a sudden, he's using somebody who is completely and utterly to do with the psychic world in the war. And all of a sudden, he's his god. Yet he himself won't use psychic ability. Still, it's just.
Well, I've just opened the Codex, and
he is psycho.
Mortarion is a psycho.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I thought he should have been technically, but I imagine. But it'll be interesting to look into that further though down the line.
Yeah,
I think how he changed for that.
He's probably one of those. I mean, he voluntarily turned to become a traitor, but he's obviously one of those sad stories of not all of his actions were his own, and he's sort of he's gone, fuck it, I'm going to join Horus's side, and then he's been betrayed from within, because maybe he wanted to be a corn demon because he just wanted to kill shit, but now he's a manky old flying rot bag.
Yeah, so, I don't think he ever set out to be Nurgle, whereas I think Typhon and then Typhus was much more on board with it.
Yeah.
I think that's a lot of the traitor Primarchs or legions, when they first picked Horus, they actually wasn't thinking. It's more that they'd been manipulated by Horus and obviously Erebus and Lorgar into thinking, no, this is best for the Imperium at the time. Still, not necessarily for. They didn't even know of the Chaos Gods. A lot of them did they until later on. And once they've cut off basically half of the Imperium, and then they realise, oh, actually, no, it was sort of all bullshit. But they're like, oh well, we've got no choice now, really. We might as well embrace it. I mean, because the ones that didn't from the start, or they thought that they didn't in the start, got massacred anyway. So they pretty much had no choice, did they? A lot of the Marines and that.
One thing I did find with the Death Guard, as I said, it was really hard to find characters with, like, you know, other than Mortarion and Typhus, and I think we talked about it briefly, John, but it's really hard to find like those kind of really good, like, because you don't want to pick Garrow, because although he's Death Guard, he's
come on.
Like, yeah, but he's not. That's
the one thing I've got written down here. He's not Death Guard. He's the only good Death Guard.
But he's good Death Guard. He's not nerdly Death Guard.
I'm in the same vein of you, Tom. I really don't want to hear too many Garrow spoilers because I know what happens, but I'm looking forward to reading it myself.
I'll be honest, right? I'll get that out of the way quick here. I've literally just written down, just because of that simple thing, Nathaniel Garrow, Death Guard, and then there's one other thing, and I won't write that. I won't.
I feel like I know what it is, but I want to read it. I know. Of course. Yeah, but we all know what happens.
Like, you know, as I said, I started. There's like Nauseous, Rotbone, and like don't get me wrong. There's loads of good Death Guard names for characters, but none of them have got lore or
No, I know.
Playable.
It's weird because
have you not heard of Pimply Skillstin? I just wanted to see if you went, who's that?
Yeah. I thought he was going to whip something out.
Oh no, that would be Pimply Foreskin. I said Stiltskin.
Oh,
chlamydial knobrot.
Yeah, because in the Codex, Rockbone, he's got a small paragraph.
Yeah.
But Scribius Wretch, he's named as the Tallyman. But there is Scribius Wretch, he's the Tallyman.
Oh, really?
There's loads of tally men.
There's loads
just
of good
named one.
names.
Yeah,
There's loads of
cool.
good names, but no characters.
yeah. It might be a little spoiler, Shane, but when I was looking all this up, our friend from Eisenstein, Ignatius Kroger, he does come back.
He's in there.
Yeah.
I've seen that as well. I saw that.
He comes back and gets used in a few ways. So I'm looking forward to seeing his way.
Back to Slanesh again.
Woo.
And you know what the best thing is as well? You didn't say Einstein this time.
Fly Einstein. Oh, right. So I think we've all been round. We've all done a few characters. Is there anyone? We've been going on for ages now. Is there anyone else we're desperate
This is
to talk about?
No, I'm okay.
Cool.
Yeah, no, I'm good, man. I'm actually feeling my eyes closing.
I just have one more point to make about Garo.
Go for
Not interested.
Because yeah,
No,
to be
go on.
fair, because he's such an important character, he does end up having sort of like almost a spin-off from the Heresy.
Yeah.
But because he was such a massive character, I had to use him to name my hamster.
Oh,
There you
really?
go. Little fact.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, very nice.
And he has now gone to meet the great Death Lord in the sky, so he's no longer with us. But you know,
But was he a
It's fine.
psycho? Or did he just enjoy poison?
he might have been. He was a little savage. He was quite the finger muncher, to be fair.
Brilliant.
Oh,
You know, clearly
Finger
felt
muncher.
chaos eventually. Yeah.
Just fingers.
Yeah.
sounds
yeah.
more Slaneshi than
Right.
no,
Well, you
no
don't put
like.
anything else in the cage. With the
Fucking
hamster.
hell. I think that
On that note.
is Exterminatus for this week.
No, hang on, no, whoa.
What?
We need Dave to say the outro.
Oh, come on, Dave. You're on the spot.
Where
I
is
take
he?
it.
Is David still here?
I don't know. I thought I
He
can't
is.
see his ears.
I am sorry.
Come on, outro us, Dave, and we can go home. We'll go to bed at least.
Go. Where are you? It's some random Jesus garage or something.
It's been a long
with all
day.
your books out. Come on in, Dave.
Okay. Well, if you give me a fucking second
Fucking hell.
to
I'm
compose
only
my-
joking. I'm only joking.
Right, so that's all for this week. Fuck off. I ain't doing it.
Oh, right, that's it. Like, share, subscribe. We're on Instagram. Google us.
You couldn't get fucked.
Pictures will be up. If we've missed a character, then shout us in the comments. If you want us to talk about anything next week, let us know. Exterminatus. See you later.
Thank you.
As always, we would like to thank you for listening to our Iron and Ceramite podcast. If you liked us, then you can also find us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and any other good podcast services. Just remember, in the grim darkness of the far future, there is only war.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Iron and Ceramite podcast. I'm John, and as always, I'm joined.
Boy.
Join
Oh, that again. I'm joined. I'm a giant.
Vagina.
Yes.
Do you know what? It is. Yeah, I will listen to most of what Glenn says about that character. How bad are the spoilers, Glenn, with regards to that? Just because it's obviously one of the things you've recommended really highly to me, so I don't want to get.
The thing is, though, I can't. It's massive spoilers. Like
Thanks.
fucking huge. Yeah, because like just as an example, he's a character that you think has died at least twice in the series.
Fuck's sake.
All right. So, shall we get on with it? Otherwise, we'll never get going. If everybody's
Stop having a good
toileted,
time, everyone.
what'd you say?
Just stop having a good time, everyone. Having a nice chat. Should we get on
I
with
thought
it?
that was part. I thought
Audio
that was
shit.
part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, all of that can go in, can't it?
Yeah, definitely.
Oh well, it can do. Yeah. Sorry, I didn't know we was recording.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Normally you turn it off when we have a break.
No, I know, but normally I'm there, and I was like, well, I'm not going to turn it off now. I'm going to go to the toilet, leave it on, and I can watch it back to see whether they talked about me. No, I'm joking.
Yeah.
Shit.
He
I
actually
thought
thinks he's a space wolf now, doesn't he? It's like disgraceful.
I think you should always leave it on because it's just good for outtakes, isn't it?
Yeah, true.
What do you want a fucking gag reel at the end of it?
We did it the first one. Clearly, someone hasn't watched the pilot episode.
there's one at the end of every single one.
In my defense, since I've come on it, I have not watched it
Stop coming on it then, Glenn.
Why are you coming on our podcast?
because I don't want to hear my own fucking voice rattling on about random shit.
I have to listen to it.
Yeah,
I've
no.
listened to it like twice.
Yeah, twice at least.
Mm. I've got to listen to all this fapping going on under your desk last week, Glenn. That's all I could hear.
Oh, Glenn and his pen. Glenn and the pen. Glenn and the pen.
Why was I flicking about with a pen a lot?
Because you was getting angry, I think.
You was
About,
flicking it and clicking it.
Was that the list pod?
It was, yeah.
Maybe it was just a bit angry at Tommy's Blood Angels. That's not
He was.
too
He
much.
was
Probably
furious.
was.
But
No, I
actually,
think
sorry,
I think it was up. I think it was because I was up in my wife's office, and I think I was just sort of flicking around with the little slidey drawer underneath the desk for the keyboard. I think that's probably what I was fiddling around with. Oh well.
But going back to the list, actually, I did send Glenn a couple of messages, a few days after that, and I have balanced out my list since then. I still liked my first list; it looked cool and everything. But I've definitely learnt from that episode and Glenn's disapproval.
Who's doing the preamble?
Sorry.
There you go.
Who's introducing it?
I don't mind. Do you want to do it, Dave?
No, if I haven't got anything written
No,
down.
come on, Dave. You've got to do it now. You don't need it written down. You're an expert now. Go on.
I'm all shy. Don't do it. Well, what are we going to do? What's the sort of? Have you got anything written down, John? And I'll sort of. I don't mind saying it if it's.
I always have something written down.
I think you're asking the note master if you've got anything written down.
If you want to do it, Dave, I literally was just going to say, so this episode, we were going to take some time to talk about some cool characters. We've each picked someone from the faction that we play, whether it's a playable character or someone from the Black Library. If we've got time, we might do a few extras from each other's factions and then just do a spoiler warning. And then you can just get Tom to start talking.
Cool.
If you want to do it.
Tom having a flap around and then.
Yeah, hang on a second. I fucking spilt my beer. I'm trying to look for some tissue or something. Hang on. Fuck's sake.
Give me 2 seconds.
Yeah, I'll be back.
You can't take tissue to him, Dave.
Oh dear.
He's gone for a nervous wee.
Just having a nervous wee. So this is the bit where I'm going to regret taking the piss out of John so much when he fucked up all the intros, isn't it?
Yeah, man.
I've tucked this chair in so close to this unit so that I look close enough that my legs can't move. So I have to keep climbing over the sofa thing, say, whatever it is.
It's a very good leather armchair, though.
It's one of them ones that I should be like this with a brandy glass, though. Like
That's
sort of-
it. You need like a what's it called? Like a velour smoking jacket.
Yeah, that's it, isn't it? Yeah. I'm like, save the blood angels, you say? Yeah. So where were we?
We're
we
waiting for
starting
Dave to lead us in gloriously to.
Put one on the fucking
Dave,
Dad.
Right.
don't fuck it up.
You can all get fucked. Right.
I'm gonna enjoy it.
Right.
Now I'm gonna just randomly laugh as you introduce it. And put you off. I find it helps if you don't look at Tom when you're talking.
Yeah, but everyone says that. They've all said that throughout my life. Everyone. Go on, Dave.
Thanks, mate. Right, so on this next section, we're going to be talking about the cat. Fuck you, John.
That was so aggressive. Listen to me.
Right.
Oh,
I knew he was going to come back to Tom taking the piss out of you. Fuck off, Tom. Right.
One beer,
Doesn't it?
no ears, and no ideas.
On this next bit, we're going to be talking about characters that we have chosen from either the Black Library or our own chapters. For fuck's sake, Tom.
What?
You're staring downwards laughing.
What?
It's the,
Right, go on.
what
Hang
I
on.
liked was the so yeah, on this next bit.
you're so aggressive, Dave.
I can't help it. I don't know what to do.
You're not arresting anyone, mate.
Right, no, I've laughed. I'm laughed out now. Go for it.
Are you there?
I don't know. It depends what mood you're going to come with the next time. On this next one. Go on, now go on.
John, read out what you said again, because I've forgotten. So, what did you put?
So this episode, we wanted to just talk about some cool characters we've each picked from the faction we're playing, whether a playable character or just out of the Black Library. We might even do a few extras at the end, picking from each other's factions if there's time. And then spoiler warning. And Tom, would you like to go first?
Okay, cool. Okay, so spoiler warning, first of all. We thought next time that we would... Oh, fuck's sake. Spoiler warning, first of all.
Dave,
Are you sure you don't want someone else to do it? Because I don't
Spoiler warning.
do you want me to just do it, Dave? Or do you want me to?
It's good.
No,
I think
Dave
it's
can
good
do it. Dave
try,
can do it.
But I think that eventually we're all going to need to fucking introduce stuff. I think that I just need to get over it and do it. But
Shane didn't take this many times last on the painting episode.
But he's more dear. But he also, I don't think that you and Tom were quite as
It's
Yeah,
because
no,
much of
Shane's
an
not.
arsehole.
It is actually really hard as well. Yeah, I must admit. So
I'm just trying to. I'm just staring at my screen now. I'm not even looking at you.
yeah, no, go for it, Dave. It's all good.
I see you smirking though. That's the thing.
It's just.
I moved it so it was like big, so I couldn't see everyone's faces. Now it's just done on you and your little grin.
It's a polite smile.
Dave, look above your screen.
Look at the webcam.
You're not focusing on anyone's face then.
Look at the ceiling. It's a talking chin.
Fucking hell.
Thanks. You guys really helped.
I was trying.
Mate, I just knocked half of that beer.
We'll just slur through it. Or the next one.
Yeah. Now go on.
Okay. So, spoiler warning, first of all. On the next section, we thought we'd talk about characters from either the Black Library or playable characters as well. So, some of what we may go through in the next sort of 45 minutes to an hour probably will actually be a bit of a spoiler for what goes on within the Black Library or the universe, so to speak. Oh, fuck's sake.
That was good. That was good.
You were there.
It was
That's
getting,
all right.
there. It just literally, it was just Tom.
One
just
or two
fucking
words.
eating things.
Cut there and move on. You're all right.
So the only Space Wolf I know anything about is Ragnar. I think Dave, you was going to talk about him as well.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I only know him from the omnibus.
Yeah.
I've only done the first 3 books, so
Yeah.
that's sort of the.
I have a bit of a. Wait, where's he gone?
He's been sucked into the warp.
What happened? I can only see one person at a time. Dave, phone?
He's just
Dave.
disappeared.
Are you okay, Dave?
I'm here.
Right. I'm gonna
Now
use
I'm
that as a
watching.
time to go for another piss. So
Yeah.
sorry.
Right,
Same
we'll
as
pause.
that.
Right.
Fucking
Okay.
hell, Dave.
Now I'm failed me.
Oh,
Well-
so you didn't fall over. Your phone fell over.
And
Right,
look,
well-
obviously, like my iPad fell over actually, but
Oh, you're out,
this
man.
is-
Go on then, Dave.
Oh.
Give us some temp.
He already looks like he's gonna go.
Stop shouting again.
Okay, guys.
I don't want to do it anymore.
Bye, guys. Cheers.
Fucked.
Done.
Oh,
Oh, Tom, you're a prick.
Oh no, I
Right.
thought you'd help. Like, 'cause I
You
thought you might.
giggling away like a schoolgirl.
No, a schoolgirl.
Oh,
That's good stuff.
No, I thought
Right.
you would have. You would have got over the first
This
time, and you would have been more.
practice.
Why don't we practice now? Now we're not
It is still-
recording.
You need to
Because
talk
I
in
want
the
to go
mirror.
to fucking bed,
Yeah,
mainly.
true. Yeah, true. Good idea.